3 counties, 24 cities, working together, accomplishing more than any of us could alone. Whether your roots run generations deep, or you recently moved to Greater Portland, you are a part of Metro, the nation's only regional government elected by the people. Planning for the future, preserving what we love. Let's keep our region thriving for decades to come.
Hello, I'm Rory. You may have seen me at my desk as you came into the Metro Regional Center. Welcome. The council chambers is located on the 3rd floor of this building. In the event of a fire or a fire alarm, please exit through the northeast corner of the room. Go down the steps to the 2nd floor, then continue straight ahead past my desk and exit through the main entrance to the plaza outside. The nearest defibrillator is located right outside of the front desk at the top of the steps to Grand Avenue. Thanks for joining us at the Metro Regional Center. We hope you have a safe day.
Wonderful. Thank you, Georgia. I'll declare a quorum for a Metro Council business meeting and going to ask Georgia to call roll.
Absolutely. Councilor Rosenthal?
Here.
Councilor Simpson?
Present. Good morning.
Councilor Wong?
Present.
Councilor Lewis? Present. Councilor Nolan will be late today, and Council President Gonzalez.
Present. Thanks. So we have quorum. We'll get going forward with our meeting. Before I open public communication, I do want to give an opportunity to Metro Attorney Carrie McLaren, because I understand we have some special guests with us today.
Thank you very much, Council President Council President Gonzalez. My goodness, I'd make my first introduction here. I am pleased to have with us our law clerks. The Office of Metro Attorney has a longstanding tradition of having 2 summer law clerks to both provide job opportunity and experience within the public sector, the local government sector. So today I'd like to introduce 2 of our law clerks who are here for this summer, Nayeli Itirian. Nayeli, if you could raise your hand. Nayeli is going into her 2nd year of law school at Willamette University. She previously worked at Metro, both as a WPES intern, then as an administrative specialist in community education and stewardship program assistant in Parks and Nature. So I think this sort of speaks to one way that people learn and get to know and grow at Metro. Our 2nd law clerk with us this summer is Rory Bulataski. He is going into his 2nd year of law school at Lewis and Clark. He's also, some may know as the mayor of West Lynn, but here for us, he's an excellent law clerk, and he's previously worked at Perkins Coie and Stolries as a paralegal. So we're pleased to have them, pleased to have this opportunity to welcome them before council. The last part I will say, President Gonzalez, is that we are having a reception this year for other law clerks in the region to try to build a little, colleagueship between these law students. That will be Thursday, July 9th in Jesse's room, just before the council meeting at 9 a.m. So I'll make sure that councilors are invited to that as well. And I thank you for the opportunity to make the introduction.
Thanks, Carrie, and welcome to our law clerks, the next generation of brilliant legal minds. We're happy to have you here with us. We're going to go ahead now and start our public communication on non-agenda items. Georgia, if you could please describe to our guests, audience members, the procedures that we use for public communication.
Absolutely. If you are testifying on non-agenda items, now is the time to do so. If you are testifying in person, please sign up by filling out a blue card in the back of the room and bringing it up to me. If you are testifying on Zoom or by phone, please sign up by using the raise hand function in the reactions or more menus, or by dialing *9. When it is your turn to testify, I'll call on your name or phone number. For those on Zoom, click accept to be promoted to a panelist. Your Zoom window will close briefly before you rejoin as a panelist, and you can turn on your camera if you'd like. Testimony is limited to 3 minutes. Timer begins when you begin speaking. If you are testifying in person, their timer is located at the testimony table, on the wall, and on the digital screen. Please state your name for the record before testifying. You do not need to give your physical address. If you are testifying on an agenda item and have not signed up in advance, please also fill out a blue card and bring it up to me now or anytime before the agenda item, or you can raise your hand at the beginning of the agenda item that you wish to testify on. And Council President Gonzalez, I do not believe that we have anyone who has signed up to testify in advance on non-agenda items. I believe all of our all of our scripts are all for an agenda item.
All right, excellent. Thank you. So we will close public communication on non-agenda items and go ahead with our business items. We do have one business item before us this morning, turning on our work session. On May 26th, we discussed an amendment to the Metropolitan Transportation Improvement Plan to support changes to the Interstate Bridge Replacement Program. In addition to the discussion in that meeting, councilors received additional answers to their questions yesterday. Those responses were added to today's meeting packet. Today, we have staff from Metro and from the Interstate Bridge Replacement Program to provide a brief overview of the amendment to refresh us and to answer any questions. Please welcome back Senior Transportation Planner Gabriela Lopez, PDNR Deputy Director Malou Wilkinson, and Interstate Bridge Replacement Program Interim Program Administrator Carly Francis. Welcome. You have a presentation for us. Thank you.
Good morning, President Gonzalez, members of the Metro Council. Again, I'm Malou Wilkinson, Deputy Director of Planning, Development, and Research, and we're excited to have the IBR program staff and then our MTIP leader here today to give a presentation. So, or whenever it's ready. Georgia, I'll turn it. I think Carly, you're going to start. If you want to introduce yourself.
Trying to make sure the mic is on.
Yeah.
It is, okay. Thank you so much. Yes, Carly Francis, the Interim Program Administrator for the Interstate Bridge Replacement Program. Thank you for your time, both here today, previously, and in conversations. Really appreciate the dialogue that we've had. Next slide. So I first wanted to start out with just a recognition of where we are at in this long time scale of this program. The region has been talking about improvements, safety and otherwise, to this corridor for over 25 years. And we're facing an opportunity today in an action that we're requesting to allocate funds to be able to advance towards construction, which is frankly pretty exciting and amazing based on the time frame that we've been talking about this program. There are significant benefits that will accrue from investing in this corridor, significantly noting seismic resilience of the Columbia River crossing bridges over the Columbia River and working towards overall seismic resilience of that corridor. None of the bridges over the Columbia River, state-owned or otherwise, are built to any modern seismic standards at this time. Beyond that is recognizing the interconnected nature of this 5-mile corridor and the fact that those closely spaced interchanges really operate in very unique ways and create the need to address safety both over the river itself as well as between those interchanges. So there's significant safety benefits that will accrue, as well as improvements to all modes of users, those who walk and roll, those who are on transit, as well as vehicles and freight mobility. Next slide. So as noted, the program is studying and has been studying this 5-mile program area, and there are benefits that accrue across this area, as mentioned, for all users. This remains the focus of the environmental impact statement and what we are working to get a record of decision on. So this is covered for the ability to move forward. We're not advancing all of this right now because we do need to advance the program in phases. But this is the focus of that environmental analysis and remains the commitment of the states to work on delivering this over time. Next slide. In this conversation with you folks, with JPACT, with TPAC, and other groups across the region, we've heard some themes of issues and concerns that people have had around advancing the MTIP in this fashion at this time. Specifically, people have been interested in independent utility. The program that we are talking about funding at this time will be able to be used by all users And so it does have that independent utility without needing to invest beyond that to make it usable. So it will be connected to I-5 on both sides. That will have bicycle and pedestrian access. The buses that travel in from Clark County will be served additionally through Bus on Shoulder. All of those features get served by this initial investment. With respect to light rail terminus, we know there's been a lot of discussion, and we share the interest in getting to Evergreen over time in Vancouver. We do not have the funds to fund that currently. It still remains covered by the environmental document. It is the intent that's stated by the modified locally preferred alternative that's been adopted by all partners in the region. So it is the intent to get there over time. Noting that we will need help to advance that work. Certainly there's additional funds needed to advance light rail across the river and also to advance to Evergreen. With respect to workforce, we know there's significant interest in how this program will bring benefits to the region for businesses and for workers individually. There is a 15% apprenticeship goal that is on all contracts within the state of Washington. This is going to be a Washington state-led contract, so that is one kind of key feature. Additionally, we do anticipate significant opportunities for small business. That includes diverse business, women-owned businesses, other entities, but there will be a federal small business goal that's on the contract that will have all of your standard sort of reporting and qualification review of commercially useful function, all of those pieces. There is the opportunity to engage with the contractor on mapping out. They will provide a small business plan, kind of their game plan for engaging small businesses. We have the opportunity to review that and be in dialogue with them as they are subcontracting work out of that program. We've also heard interest in the low-income toll program within the toll that we plan to collect. So folks are interested in how and when that gets implemented. There are not yet policies set on that, and so the ability to program the details into the back office aren't available to program in yet. I would note that in Washington State, while there has not been low-income toll programs, historically there is already at this point a request from legislature to implement a low-income toll program on one of the toll facilities in Washington State. So some of that work in the background is happening already. There is the need to then expand that to a by-state setting and make sure that it works on both sides for how you actually identify and provide that to users. So it is in the works, I would say. It is in the sights of the transportation commissions in their dialogue together. So they have identified a low-income toll program in all of the scenarios that they're studying, but they have yet to set those rates and policies. So it's not something that we directly control, but we know, I think it is alive and well in the dialogue, and Oregon's advocacy around it has been strong and I think effective, recognizing that it is in all of those toll scenarios. And then also people have been interested, as they've always been interested in diversion. We do recognize that there is that potential for diversion to 205. Folks will make a variety of choices. The final supplemental environmental impact statement does look at that long-range expectation for diversion and does see some small percentages of diversion to I-205 as anticipated. The other thing I would note is the work around construction planning, and that we will have a construction plan developed with the contractor to understand what do things look like as we're in construction, and that will also dovetail with coordination with relevant agencies, so probably notably City of Portland, City of Vancouver, likely the ports, recognizing those sort of nearby users that we need to coordinate with to understand how are things operating and are there things that we should be making adjustments to live and in the moment. So we do intend to, plan to pay attention to that over time. It is part of the game plan. We don't have all the details yet because we don't have a contractor to actually understand and discuss those details in detail yet. Next slide. So just as a quick reminder, we do have this core set of projects that is the first intention of the program to implement. That includes a replacement bridge over the Columbia River with a shared use path that is connected to Hayden Island and the waterfront in Vancouver, that connects to I-5 on both sides and connects for vehicular users on Hayden Island and SR 14. That also contains the width for light rail across the bridge. Beyond that, it includes removal of the Columbia River bridges as well as extension of light rail. Extension of light rail to the waterfront station does require a significant body of work. It requires grade separation at Marine Drive. It requires a new structure over North Portland Harbor. It requires structure and a station on Hayden Island, as well as connecting up to the bridge on structure. And then on the Vancouver side, it requires connecting off of the bridge and constructing that station at Waterfront. That's the entirety of sort of that initial extension into Vancouver that is under discussion right now with the federal government. The entirety of those costs is $7.65 billion. That's from March. I would also note that included in this is pre-completion tolling and the body of work both to physically implement that, technologically implement that, and also to inform the public and educate the public about what that's going to be like, get transponders out in people's vehicles, to know what's expected and how to participate. Next slide. So the primary question before you today is an amendment to the MTIP that has 4 components, which Gabriella will cover here shortly. But specifically in visual format, it is the shared use path that is connected that folks will be able to use, the width for light rail, pre-completion tolling, that body of work I just described, the removal of the Columbia River bridges, as well as costs for supporting transit design. We do need those funds programmed to continue to support the capital investment grant program process. That supports the movement of design from 30% to 60% for that light rail extension that I described on the last slide. The total cost for this is $5.68 billion. Next slide. I think that actually might be my last slide. Yes, so that's the primary ask before you, just to remind you folks about what the action is requested today.
Thanks, Carly. Malou, do we have anything from the Metro staff?
Yeah, Gabby is going to, she has a presentation that I think our team over here is pulling up.
Good morning, Gabriela Lopez. I use she, her pronouns. I'm a senior transportation planner here at Metro, and I'm here to present on the specifics and the details of the MTIP amendment. There have been no changes to what has been presented in front of Metro Council at the May 26 meeting, so the amendment is still the same proposed amendment. JPAC did consider this last Thursday and they recommended approval, so this is now before you for consideration. If it is approved today, the amendment would proceed and the project would move forward, but if it's not approved at today's meeting, it would go back to JPAC for additional consideration. Next slide, please. So just a quick overview, the formal amendment amends 3 existing MTIP I-5 IBR projects and will add 1 new project, which is the transit design project. And combined, the formal amendment will increase approximately $3.6 billion to our MTIP. Next slide. The meeting packet materials that were provided include the staff report, the resolution, Exhibit A, which is the project detail report, which shows the programming of the projects, the Exhibit B, which is the public comment report. This one has been finalized, and the staff memo on the IBR project assessment, as well as the local preferred alternative and project maps. And the staff recommendation and JPAC recommendation is to adopt Resolution 26-5599 to amend or add 4 I-5 Interstate Bridge Replacement Program projects as stated within Exhibit A to the 2024 to 2027 MTIP to meet federal project delivery requirements. Next, I'll go to each of the individual projects that are being amended. The first one, next slide, is the I-5 Columbia River Interstate Bridge project. This is for the non-construction activities, so it includes design, right-of-way, and utility relocation activities. The proposed amendment would increase the total project cost from $554 million to $793 million. There is a change in project description, and this is to ensure that includes the right-of-way acquisition for the demolition of the current bridge, engineering phase of phase of $26 million, and an decrease in the right-of-way phase of $86 million. Next slide. Our second MTIP project, existing MTIP project, is the I-5 Columbia River Bridge Replacement Project. For this proposed amendment, the project would be increasing from $1.4 billion to $4.7 billion in total project cost. This project is to advance the post-NEPA design and construction activities for the I-5 Interstate Bridge Replacement. And the proposed amendment would change the project description to ensure it includes the design and construction for the removal of the existing bridge structure, as well as updating the milepost to ensure consistency with the previous project. It increases the preliminary engineering phase by $233 million, and it increases the construction phase by $3 billion. Next slide. And the third existing MTIP project that would be amended would be the I-5 Oregon and Washington pre-completion tolling signage project. The total project increase would be from $24.5 million to $51 million, and this includes a proposed amendment to change project name as well as project description, and this would be amended to include pre-launch activities such as education, marketing, system integration, and customer service activities. There's also updates to the milepost for the project location and an increase in construction by $1.5 million and an increase to the other phase by $25 million. Next slide. The fourth project included in this proposed amendment is the new project to be programmed. This project, as Carly mentioned, would advance the transit design to complete 60% design for light rail, and it would be programmed with a preliminary engineering phase with $50 million of Washington's DOT mega grant funds. Next slide. When the project is either capacity enhancing, regionally significant, or has an amendment that is over $100 million, enhancing, regionally significant, or has an amendment that is over $100 million. And this documents how the proposed amendment will perform in accordance with local, regional, and state policies, as well as evaluate how it addresses the 5 area goals of the 2023 Regional Transportation Plan. Since the amendment is not proposing any changes to the full build, the analysis results remain the same as those approved in the July 2025 formal amendment. Next slide. Next slide. A required public comment period was completed through this process. It opened on April 27th and closed on Tuesday, June, and testimony from 5 attendees at the JPAC meeting on May 21st, 2026. And the comments included concerns on the impacts of tolling, cost overruns, and available revenues, as well as support of funding of the bridge replacement project. Next slide. Just a quick overview of the timeline for the project, for the amendments. The public comment period, as I mentioned, started April 27th. TPAC, JPAC, and Metro all restarted April 27th. TPAC, JPAC, and Metro all received overview presentations of these proposed amendments in May. And the first action that was taken by TPAC was on June 5th. The public comment period ended shortly after on June 16th, and the finalized public comment period report was presented at JPAC for action last Thursday, June 18th, so today is being brought to council for action. Next slide. And again, the recommended action is to adopt Resolution 265599 to amend or add 4 I-5 interstate bridge replacement projects as stated within Exhibit A to the 2024-2027 MTIP to meet federal project delivery requirements. Thank you.
All right, excellent. Thank you for the presentation. Councilors, do you have any questions or comments? We'll see any hands raised here. Be great. Councilor Lewis?
Sure, thank you so much. I don't have any questions. I've had plenty of opportunity to get my questions addressed over the past month or so. I just wanted to report back that we had a robust conversation at JPAC last week. Thank you to my fellow JPAC counselors. And I do think that the region has fully vetted and exercised the democratic process and thinking through all the different dynamics. With the way that we handled the addition of the bridge removal so that we were able to give the full public comment period, not create additional confusion, since that's not really core to kind of the matters at hand, but still had plenty of time for folks across the region to weigh in. Thank you.
Thanks, Councilor Lewis. Anyone else? Councilor Rosenthal, are you?
Yeah, thank you, Chair. I think I'll make a comment. I was also at the JPAC meeting, and we received a lot of answers to a lot of questions. I was in the audience many years ago when Metro decided to vote against the original proposal for the Columbia River crossing for reasons because of a management problem that failed to address one of the issues of clearance, particularly on the navigable waterway. That's been addressed. I think that's good. Nonetheless, if I could say a lot of things about the project management, current management accepted, of course, that I think that we have missed a lot of opportunities and have not addressed a lot of questions in advance that could have been addressed, such as diversion, such as channel configuration, such as a whole bunch of issues regarding cost and so forth. Nonetheless, I think there are some good things that could come out of this. One is the provision of jobs and provision of community benefits. I think we need a new bridge. I think we have to go forward in some sense, even though it's not clear how we're going to afford it in the long run. I'll leave it at that.
Thanks, Counselor. Counselor Lewis, is your hand up again?
I did just put my hand up again, and I guess I just want to say I share a long history with this project, both from my time at the legislature and as a community member interested in building this bridge. And I'm curious if it would be appropriate to ask staff to reflect on what Councilor Rosenthal just said, because I don't think that there's full accuracy in some of the summarization, particularly around why previous Metro councils rejected previous versions of previous projects. And I just kind of want to clear that up.
Yeah. If
If
staff
somebody could
has
answer
any,
that.
if there's a crystal ball that we could look into the past for, or anything like that. If anyone in the audience has recollection, we welcome. Staff wing. But Malou, I'm looking at you.
President Gonzalez, I was here at Metro, but not engaged in the Columbia River crossing, and I do not want to speculate on the reasons why that particular council voted against it at the time. I know this project has been a priority for our region for decades, and has had many leaders. And I think, we can go back in history and find information for you all later. I'm not going to answer off the cuff here. But what I do want to say is that I personally have a lot of confidence in the current leadership that is sitting right here next to me. I think Carly Francis has really been masterful at answering questions from all different types of leaders around our region on both sides of the river, and I really appreciate the work that she's done so far. So that's my non-answer.
Oh, you're good. I do know on the presentation that was shared, I believe we did talk about diversion and the things that were studied, and some of these things, maybe the answers aren't substantial enough to what people want or they don't like what they see, but I'm wondering what questions potentially are still unanswered, Councilor Rosenthal, if there's anything in particular. Maybe Carly can help answer. We have the administrator here with a trove of knowledge.
I guess
Well,
go ahead.
I think that just in response to your question, I think there's been a lot of issues that could have been raised a lot earlier and could have been dealt with a lot earlier, such as pre-construction tolling to generate you might say a nest egg for paying for the costs that have gone up, such as providing some detailed aspects of how diversion will be handled and what mitigation is going to be done, such as one of the other issues. I lost my thread there. There's another issue. I just think there's a lot of issues that could have been, it was put on the table and then sort of ignored for a while until it came back to the situation where we realized we really had to move forward with this project. So I just think that the issue, well, things changed over time. I'm just trying to think of that one other issue that could have been dealt with, but diversion and, if it comes to me, I'll think of it.
Yeah, you said something about channel mitigation, I wrote down.
Well, For example, it moved, or the main channel and the main height of the span is going to be in the center of the channel, which doesn't require major modifications. But this was one of the big problems 10 years ago because the channel was on the far side of the river and it didn't have, with the current bridge clearance, it didn't have the clearance. And then moving the channel is complicated because it requires barges to shift channels. So there is still some issue with that, but that was resolved very recently, apparently, in the final bridge design that we have now, but it was not resolved 10 years ago.
Oh, I see. Okay, thank you. Counselor Huang and then Counselor Simpson.
Thank you, President Gonzalez, and thank you to the administrator and all the staff. Can you just remind me the consequences of not moving this forward in terms of the federal investments that are at play?
Certainly, and thank you for the prompt. I probably meant to say it earlier, and I did not. So we are working towards obligation of federal funds by the end of September. We do need the MTIP approved so that we can get our record of decision. We need the record of decision to be able to move towards that construction funding obligation with the federal government. So there's this nested body of work. And recognizing also that there's over $500 million that will expire, i.e. not come to the region, not be available for the region to even request, that expire by the end of September. And so that would punch a significant hole in the game plan right now and require going back to the drawing board significantly to try to figure out how to advance construction in the near term. So this is all timed up towards supporting the opportunity to advance to construction in 2028, which is about the fastest we can get there. And so these are all, they're kind of backed up within that. We do need the MTIP and STIP amendments to be approved and through the federal process as well to then advance on these next steps.
Great. So if I'm understanding the timeline, if we delay, this region loses $500 million from federal investment.
That's the
for whatever this project have. I'm not in the mood to send back federal money for projects. I'm really focused on other projects that we need federal support from, like 82nd Avenue, like TV Highway. And that's not a message I want to send, is we don't need your money, federal government. So I understand the consequences. Thank you for sharing that. And I'll be in support because we need all the federal investment we can get. Thank you.
Thanks, Counselor Huang. Counselor Simpson.
Thank you, President Gonzalez. Thank you, Director Francis. Thank you, Malou, for the presentation. Somebody who has been a part of at least this iteration of the project for some time, starting at the Community Advisory Group and, working through the pedestrian access points and things like that. Carly, could you share a little bit of that to the public around the pedestrian and cycling access for folks, as well as could you talk a little bit about the workforce requirements that you're going to inlay in this project? Because we know that you've sat before a number of bodies, including Southwest RTC, JPAC, a few others, and we're basically the last stop. So could you walk us through that timeline in terms of where it all landed, where everybody is at, and then and highlight the workforce and the pedestrian access and cycling access?
So procedurally, they acted in May, I believe. Southwest Washington Regional Transportation Council acted in early June. So those were the full and complete approval activities through those bodies. Those two bodies plus the array of approval processes through Oregon Metro are those things that comprise the local actions on the MTIP and STIP that are necessary to advance that process forward. With respect to pedestrian and bicycle access, in that first body of work, there is a shared use path that will be on the bridges themselves, that will be connected down to Hayden Island, that will be connected at the waterfront in Vancouver. That provides the opportunity. It does not preclude the opportunity to sort of connect into the light rail station going forward. So that's an opportunity in design to pay attention to how and whether or not that path can kind of connect into that and maybe bridge the gap on climbing up to that facility through use of those concurrent use of elevators. The other reality then is that will, those pedestrian and bicycle improvements, it looks different on both sides, but certainly will be interwoven into the networks that exist today. I think on the Hayden Island itself, and then in the Marine Drive, Delta Park area. And so in the long run, there are sort of Marine Drive, Delta Park area. And so in the long run, there are sort of adjustments in that area to make sure that the sort of 40-mile loop is connected effectively and finding in those areas. In the near term, with respect to replacing the bridge, you will come down on Hayden Island, get off, and then sort of use similar local networks to get onto the path that is on the existing North Portland Harbor Bridge and then connect in. So those are all kind of general features, and making sure that we pay attention to how that interacts with the local networks is important. With respect to workforce opportunities, one, I've noted the apprenticeship requirement that is in Washington state law. And so there is that 15% apprenticeship requirement. Achieving that will be in coordination with the contractor. We have been working and have been in dialogue with labor to sort of understand their role in that. So appreciate those rich dialogues. And then the other opportunity certainly is with small businesses and how everybody fits into that. So one, we are anticipating this federal small business program goal on this project. So that sort of expectation, not just of a voluntary or an opportunity goal, but a specific targeted goal, which certainly on a contract of this size will be a massive volume of work for small businesses. And then working with the contractor to understand how to do that in a way that is both building for small businesses and also supportive of them, recognizing there's a significant amount of risk that comes with a project like this and the time schedule that's embedded. And so that's going to be a amount of risk that comes with a project like this and the time schedule that's embedded. And so that's going to be a good dialogue with the contractors. So I think those are some factors that are embedded in our work currently.
And remind me and the public, how long is this project from start to finish?
So the 5-mile program is anticipated to be delivered over 20 years. That's assuming that funds are available on that schedule that's mapped out. The schedule that's mapped out really is specific to construction phasing that makes sense and sort of staging that makes sense. So that sequencing that's relevant. It is not timed out to funding availability at this time. So it's really just about how would you actually progress the construction. The specific body of work itself is expected to be 6 to 7 years. It's not inclusive of bridge removal, which comes on later. So there's probably about a 10-ish year horizon of work associated with this, the MTIP you're considering today. Certainly there are other pieces that would need to be advanced more near term to program light rail expansion, those types of things. But sort of for the body of work that you're programming, that's probably a roughly 10-year period.
Thank you, Director Francis. And I want to say, before I let it go, thank you, and thank you to your previous administrator, Greg Johnson. Y'all were very thoughtful about the approach to this project. And I'll say this: I don't think we, as a region, have the luxury to rebuff or turn our nose up at 20 years worth of work. So, thank you.
You're welcome.
Thanks. All right, seeing no other hands, if I could just kind of summarize and also share some thoughts and reflections as we approach a motion and public comment here. I completely agree that there's no question that we need a new bridge for safety reasons, for many of the reasons that have been covered. And colleagues that have served as our agency's primary attendee at the Interstate Bridge Executive Steering Committee. And in those few meetings have tried to, from my time on the council serving with you, surface the questions, the issues, as much as possible. And I want to echo what Councilor Simpson and Councilor Lewis just shared in terms of the great leadership that I've seen from you, Director Francis, and your team, especially through this pivotal decision, this critical phase of action as our region looks to make a decision here. And I want to highlight the walking and the biking aspects of the bridge, what I see as a generational investment in Oregon businesses and Oregon workers, building on our region's incredible track record of transit and multimodal usage. But what I think I'm most proud of as we're approaching a decision today is that we're exercising a degree of practicality in our phasing. We are building what we have money for. And I think that from what I heard from Oregonians over the last year is they really want to see us stay within our budget and what we have money for. What I appreciate about this specific phase of the project is that we have confidence that we can deliver independent utility and begin construction on what we know that we need. And I think that's a really big deal. What remains for the outstanding $9 billion of the project, what's very clear to me, Carly, in the bullet points in the conversations that I've had and the presentations that I've seen, is that the region will need to do work to bring the resources, to prioritize the resources if we want to see that work. Is important for us to acknowledge, while also seeing that we have a very direct decision in front of us, which I look forward to supporting and continuing to support the workforce. So thank you very much for coming and this presentation. So I'm going to call on a motion for resolution number 26-5599.
I'll move 265599.
So, second.
All right, moved by JPAC Chair Christine Lewis and JPAC member Ashton Simpson. Any discussion on the motion in front of us? Okay, seeing none. I'm sorry, we do have to have public comment. What's that?
We got Council Rosenthal that has the same.
I'll wait for public comment.
Okay, I'm looking at my script here. I don't think I have a public comment built into it, but I'm gonna go to the staff for public comment.
Trying to keep you on your toes. Apologies for that.
Yeah, I was like, I know I'm not supposed to call for a vote here.
Yeah, apologies. Yeah, let's open up. Are you ready to open up?
Yes, please.
Great, perfect. I'll describe real quickly. If you are testifying on resolution number 26-5599, now is the time to do so. If you are testifying in person, please sign up by filling out a blue card in the back of the room and bringing it up to me. If you are testifying on Zoom or by phone, please sign up by using the raise hand function in the reactions or more menus, or by dialing *9. When it is your turn to testify, I'll call in your name or phone number. For those on Zoom, click accept to be promoted to a panelist. Your Zoom window will close briefly before you rejoin as a panelist, and you can turn on your camera if you'd like. Testimony is limited to 3 minutes, and the timer begins when you begin speaking. If you are testifying in person, their timer is located at the testimony table, on the wall, and on the digital screen. Please state your name for the record before testifying. You do not need to give your physical address. And Council President Gonzalez, we do have some folks who have signed up to testify. I'm going to start with the in-person folks, and then I'll move on to the virtual. So, first up today, we have Chris Smith, and you can choose any of the 4 seats there.
Chris, thank you for joining us.
Good morning. Chris Smith, representing the Just Crossing Alliance. And let me start out with admiration for Councilor Lewis for riding herd on a very spicy JPAC meeting on this topic. Based on that, I'm looking forward to your discussion. But I want to focus my remarks on moving forward beyond this step, because I have a lot of concerns about both scope and governance. One is inappropriately scoped. Phase 1 should include full multimodal connections all the way to Library Square, and we don't get that. And a huge question we have is, did the consultants declare it by fiat? Was it a whispered conversation between the governors? We have no documentation, no history. We had an extensive process that you participated in to get the MLPA decided at the executive steering group. Why isn't the executive steering group deciding what the phase scope is? This seems like a very inappropriate process and raises the question of future governance. All of the advisory groups except the executive steering group have been disbanded at this point. So who is riding herd, for example, on the $50 million transit design contract that's part of these MTIP amendments? We care a lot about what gets designed in that process, and we don't know how we're going to have avenues to participate. So looking to you to make sure, one, that we get actual multimodal utility out of phase 1 rather than just an auto-centric project, which is really what we see. I mean, I can't imagine how, sorry, I'm going to use some transit speak, an MOS, a minimum operable segment of light rail that ends at the waterfront, will score well in FTA processes. It just doesn't really work as a connection. We need to get to Library Square where all the BRT connections are. So we need to do much better than what we currently contemplate for Phase 1. Thank you.
Thanks, Chris.
Thank you. Okay. Next, we have Robin Richardson, and on deck, we have Burke Nelson.
Good morning, President Gonzalez and members of the council. I'm Robin Richardson, Senior Vice President at Moda Health. I'm also an at-large member of the Community Advisory Group. It's time to build the bridge. I'm asking your support of the amendment today. The project needs the amendment approval to access federal matching funding that is already allocated and approved for the project. We have a September deadline, as you heard, for this, and if we miss the deadline, we will likely lose significant amounts of federal matching funds. My reason for asking for your support this morning is not just from a funding standpoint. It's from an economic, commuter, and safety perspective. The I-5 bridge, as you know, is critical to our economy. About 125 to 140,000 vehicles cross that bridge a day. They carry both freight and individuals to their jobs. I'm one of those daily commuters. My house is 13 miles from our downtown Portland office. In the evening, my commute averages between 45 minutes to an hour, and it's taken as long as 2.5 hours if there is an incident before or on the bridge. In the evening, I often refer to the bridge as the magic bridge. It is a slow-moving drive to get onto the bridge, and once you get off, you can almost go up to full speed. It's like the traffic disappeared. The bridge project will be one of the largest construction and employment projects in our region in a very long time, years. The bridge also has care impact on our region. Patients access health care across from both sides of the river, and healthcare employees also cross the river daily for their jobs. For those of us with more serious health issues, our specialists are generally located here in Portland. Mine are at OHSU. If I have an 8 a.m. morning appointment, I have to leave the house between 6:30 and 7 a.m. just to make sure there's not a problem on the bridge. Riding a bicycle or walking across the bridge is not for the faint of heart. The bridge is dangerous for both pedestrians and cycles. The bike lanes and pedestrian lanes are not wide enough for both a bicycle and a pedestrian at the same time. One or the other has to go in between the girders, another for the other to pass. When my neighbors initially found out that I was on the Community Advisory Group, it was not unusual for them to knock on my door and complain about the bridge project. Now their comments have changed. Their comments are, we just need to build the bridge. They realize the increasing daily risk of negative and human economic impact if we don't build it. I want to see our communities and metro region continue to thrive and grow. This project will have a significant and positive contribution to that growth, and we will continue to become the great metro area we can be instead of just two states separated by a river. Thank you.
Thank you. Next, we have Burke Nelson, and on deck, we have Don Ottermont.
All right. Good morning, councilors. Good to see everybody again. My name is Burke Nelson. I'm the Senior Apology Manager for NAMAC, the National Association for Minority Contractors. We are pleased to express our strong support for the Interstate Bridge Replacement Program and the upcoming Columbia River Bridge Replacement Project. The IBR program represents a once-in-a-generation infrastructure investment that will improve regional mobility, safety, freight movement, and economic competitiveness. Equally important, it presents a historic opportunity to create lasting economic opportunity for disadvantaged businesses, communities of color, and the next generation of skilled workers throughout Oregon and Washington. NAMAC Oregon appreciates the IBR program's commitment to engaging the contracting community ahead of the request for qualifications anticipated this summer. Early outreach and transparency are critical to ensuring meaningful participation by diverse businesses and creating a competitive procurement process. As the voice of contractors of color throughout Oregon, we encourage the IBR program to prioritize accountability, inclusion, and measurable outcomes throughout project delivery. This will also help with establishing strong and enforceable DBE goals, create accessible early engagement by private contractors, invest in capacity building, deliver workforce and community. And as Ms. Francis pointed out, and that seems like a long time, but that's also a long time for employment. That's a long time for individuals to be able to put meals on tables for their families. That's a long time for security afforded to people who live in this region. And this is something that is needed for the assistance of transportation to and from Oregon and Washington, because what we want to do is make it easier for people to come into this metro region, not more difficult. So please consider this as our support, our being NAMAC, and I would love for this project to go forward. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Now we have Don Ottermott, and next we have Louis DeSitter.
Good morning. Good morning, President Gonzalez, members of the council. It's great to be back in this chamber. It's been quite a few years since my years at the City of Hillsborough. I come here today as a representative of the Washington County Chamber of Commerce, where I represent, I lead as the chair of their Transportation Council. Our chamber, represents over 800 small and large businesses and nonprofits in Washington County. Chamber's role is business advocacy, leadership, basically networking, marketing, and so forth. And so, you know, one of the things about Washington County businesses, we are heavily traded sector dependent. That means we've got a lot of product, both raw materials coming in and finished products going out that head out principally over freight trucks. This I-5 bridge over the Columbia River is a critical component of that system. See the advancement on light rail, recognize its importance. Again, appreciative to the ODOT IBR team for coming out on average about twice a year to speak with our businesses. Our business has been very plugged into this project. We've been on record a couple of times now speaking out in support of the project. And so I'm here today to just deliver our support and recommendation for this MTIP amendment. What we hear frequently from the businesses is we've done enough studying. Let's go swing some hammers and get their consideration of this amendment, and let's get this project under construction. Thank you.
Thank you. Now we have Louis DeSitter, and on deck is TJ McHugh.
Council President Gonzalez, members of the council, for the record, my name is Louis DeSitter, and I'm here on behalf of Ironworkers Local 29. Local 29 urges you in the strongest possible terms to advance the Interstate 5 bridge replacement project without any further delays. This project is long overdue, and time is no longer on our side. Construction costs are rising every single day. Each delay directly translates to higher costs, increased risk to funding, and greater uncertainty for the region and our members. We cannot afford to lose momentum at this stage and the jobs that the interstate bridge replacement will provide. Councilor Simpson, your comment about not having the luxury to say no to work is apt. Right now, Local 29 members are experiencing 33% unemployment. Meanwhile, next door in Idaho, iron workers are experiencing full employment. This region needs to begin improving its infrastructure now for regional commerce, freight movement, public safety, and especially the good paying family wage jobs these projects provide. That's why it's critical that the project stay on its current timeline. The schedule is not arbitrary. It's essential to preserving committed, anticipated funding sources, and any slippage puts dollars at risk and could jeopardize the entire project. Our members are ready to go to work, but they need the project to move forward. We respectfully ask that the council take decisive action to keep this project on track and ensure there are no further delays. Thank you.
Thank you. Now we have TJ McHugh, and on deck we have Jana Jarvis.
Good afternoon, President and Councilors. For the record, my name is TJ McHugh, Director of Government Affairs for the Portland Metro Chamber. Thank you for the opportunity to testify today in strong support of the Interstate Bridge Replacement Program. The Interstate Bridge is far more than a crossing between Oregon and Washington. It is one of the most important freight corridors on the entire West Coast and a critical connection for the businesses, workers, and families who rely on it every single day. The current bridge is over a century old, carries nearly 150,000 vehicles each weekday, experiences hours of daily congestion, and has a crash rate 3 times higher than comparable corridors. It also remains vulnerable to a major seismic event. We know that that if a significant earthquake would cause catastrophic economic disruption and put lives at risk. Continuing to delay this project only increases those risks while driving up construction costs. The Portland Metro Chamber represents more than 2,800 businesses, over 80% of them which are small businesses. Our members understand that a reliable infrastructure is essential to the economic growth. Every hour that freight sits in traffic, every delay caused by bridge lifts, and every day that we postpone replacing this aging bridge comes at a cost to our regional and national economy. The Interstate Bridge Replacement Program is an investment in safety, economic competitiveness, and resilience. It will create tens of thousands of family wage jobs, strengthen our freight network, improve mobility for commuters, and provide a modern multimodal crossing that will serve our region for generations. This is the kind of infrastructure investment that pays dividends for decades. We urge Metro to continue moving this project forward and demonstrate the regional leadership needed to deliver this long overdue replacement. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. I'm now promoting Jana Jarvis to a panelist, and then on deck is Contran.
Good morning. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, good. Thank you. Good morning, President Gonzalez and councilors. I'm Janet Jarvis, President and CEO of the Oregon Trucking Association, a member of the Community Advisory Group on the I-5 Bridge, and I'm here to encourage your support for Resolution 26-5599 for the Interstate 5 Bridge Improvement Project. The I-5 corridor is the most important freight route on the West Coast. Every day, thousands of trucks move the goods that keep our communities functioning: food to grocery stores, medical supplies to hospitals, construction materials to job sites, and products that support businesses throughout Oregon, Washington, and beyond. The trucking industry depends on a transportation network that is safe, efficient, and reliable. The I-5 Bridge Improvement Project represents a long overdue investment in infrastructure that will strengthen freight mobility, improve safety, reduce congestion, and support economic growth for decades to come. This project is not simply a transportation improvement, it's an economic necessity. The bridge serves as a gateway for interstate commerce and international trade moving along the entire West Coast. Ensuring that freight can move efficiently across the Columbia River is essential to maintaining the competitiveness of our region and supporting family wage jobs throughout the transportation, manufacturing, agriculture, and retail sectors. As our population and economy continue to grow, the cost of inaction becomes increasingly difficult to ignore. Delays, safety concerns, and operational inefficiencies will only worsen if we fail to modernize this vital corridor. This corridor is listed on the American Transportation Institute's top 100 bottlenecks report. In fact, it's listed as the 31st worst bottleneck in the nation. Investing now will provide long-term benefits for businesses, workers, and communities across the region. The trucking industry stands ready to partner with policymakers, transportation agencies, and community stakeholders to deliver a project that meets the needs of both freight and the traveling public. We encourage the Metro Council to continue its support and help advance this critical investment in our region's future. Thank you for your consideration.
Thank you. I am now going to promote Contran to a panelist. And next is Sam Kim. I'm not seeing Sam in the audience or on Zoom though, so we shall see. Con, I'm promoting you now.
Good morning, President Gonzalez and members of the council. Good to see you, Director of Policy and Programs for Identity Clark County, or ICC. ICC is a business association supporting economic growth and vitality in Southwest Washington. I'm here today to express organization support for Resolution 26-5599 and for the IBR project in general. With billions of dollars already committed and a record of decision anticipated soon, maintaining momentum is critical at this time. The resolution before you today represents an important step in keeping the project on schedule and ensuring that federal funding and project delivery requirements continue to be met. Advancing these policies helps move the program one step closer from planning toward implementation and actual construction. The Interstate Bridge Replacement Program is about much more than replacing an aging infrastructure. It is about strengthening regional connectivity between Oregon and Washington, improving mobility for workers and businesses, and increasing freight reliability along the West Coast's most important transportation corridor, and creating a transportation system that is safer and resilient for future generations. As you've heard today from many others, what is important is maintaining forward progress toward the shared goal of delivering a project that meets the region's long-term transportation needs. Finally, I want to thank you all, and thank JPAC, Metro staff, and the IBR team, and the many local, regional, and state and federal partners who helped bring the project to this point. We appreciate all of your leadership in navigating this vital project. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Next, we have Sam Kim. If you're around, please raise your hand on Zoom. We're not seeing Sam. And then we have a hand raised in the audience, which is CPB-CTC. I'm going to promote you to a panelist now.
Good morning. This is Randall Friesen with the Columbia Pacific Building Trades Council. Thank you for promoting me to be able to give some comment. Good morning, President Gonzalez and council members. I'm here today on behalf of over 20,000 building trades union members in the Portland metropolitan and Southwest Washington areas, represented by the Columbia Pacific Building and Construction Trades Council. The council is comprised of 22 local area unions comprised of 14 international union organizations. Our union membership is the foundation of the construction industry in the region, building the schools, hospitals, and infrastructure that our communities rely on. We are committed to upholding the highest standards of workmanship, safety, fairness, and training opportunities. The Interstate Bridge Replacement is a critical infrastructure proposal that will trigger positive environmental change to all communities in the region. The new bridge will reduce greenhouse gas emissions along I-5 by improving traffic flow, easing congestion, and potentially enabling transit-oriented development. This will lead to lower fuel consumption and fewer vehicle emissions. Additionally, the new bridge will particularly benefit the next generation of construction professionals who currently are middle school students. With an approximate 10-year time frame, this project could and will employ thousands of workers and has the possibility and responsibility of providing family wage jobs and unparalleled training opportunities through the building trades state registered apprenticeship programs. Over the past several years, state registered apprenticeship programs have made concerted efforts to increase awareness to traditionally underserved communities, increasing opportunities for generational wealth, and expanding the middle class. Access to these programs will provide a new base of workers with cutting-edge skills related to green energy, giving further environmental benefits to the region. Lastly, funding for this project is already allocated by both Washington and Oregon, and we strongly support this proposal to increase existing allocations. Failing to adjust approved funds could put all community benefits at risk and directly jeopardize billions of dollars in federal matching. As a highly debated critical infrastructure initiative, this project must move forward now. Derailing or limiting needed funding could stop the project entirely and erode public trust in our state and local government's ability to deliver essential, taxpayer-funded infrastructure. Timing is critical, and securing this funding increase ensures that vital federal matching funds remain fully available and securely allocated ahead of the September 2026 deadline. Thank you for your time and consideration. Appreciate you all.
Thank you. Council President Gonzalez, I'm not seeing anyone else who has signed up to testify in person or online. If I'm supposed to call your name, please raise your hand in the virtual audience or let me know in the physical one now. Okay, I think that's it.
Thanks. Can I actually ask Carly to come back for some quick follow-up questions? Thanks. Thank you, Carly. Hey, first, thank you to everyone that came to provide public comment and adding your voice to this very important council decision. Very much appreciate hearing the diverse perspectives about how we should be moving forward as a region. But very quickly, Carly, I wanted to ask specifically during the testimony, there's an important question around the transit design and kind of that round of community engagement and how people can anticipate to have the opportunity to comment, to engage. Can you share more about what we anticipate that looking like?
So it is not exactly mapped at this time. However, knowing that there is opportunity, that 30 to 60% design body of work does provide opportunity, and we will plan it in for opportunities for engagement there. I think quite plainly, we are working to re-understand what it means to both have good, appropriate engagement with respect to delivery, as well as that continued design body of work. So it's not something mapped right now, but certainly the intention is to make sure that folks have opportunities to advise on kind of station design and those types of features and understanding what the details are. So there's a commitment to make sure that's happening.
Yeah, great, thank you. And also in past presentations, you've covered this. I'm just going to ask you to cover it again.
Please.
But the current phase 1 of the project and why the bridge is being built to include light rail but not fully include light rail right now. Can you just talk about that small distinction again?
Yes, so there will be the 34 feet for light rail that is built into the bridge itself. So that will allow for north and southbound running trains. So making sure that we build the bridge over the Columbia River right is absolutely the first step that's needed. And in considering how to move this program forward, that maintains the modal commitment by making sure the space is there to build it in and make sure that it's available as we advance forward. I think notably, not having the space on the bridge and trying to expect that there would be a separate bridge for transit over the primary channel of the Columbia River would be a significant impediment to ever getting light rail to Vancouver.
Thank you. That's all. Thanks. Oh, sorry, actually, I see more hands raised. I apologize. I wasn't paying attention to my screen. Councilor Rosenthal and Councilor Huang. And welcome, Councilor Nolan.
Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you, President Gonzalez. First of all, I want to specifically thank current project manager Francis for her thoroughness in responding to questions that I had regarding very specific technical elements of the bridge. And then I also want to say that I generally agree that this would be a tremendous economic boon in terms of jobs, and it's necessary to replace an old bridge. That said, the other issue that I mentioned is we have gotten to the point where we have a bridge that we don't have a hard commitment for a low-income tolling. We don't even know what the bridge is going to look like. And I would point out that about 2 years ago, I asked the then project manager about phasing this project, because we all know this was originally proposed as a freeway project with a bridge in the middle. And I was told that, well, phasing wasn't necessary. We were just going to go for the whole thing. From a consulting standpoint, and having been a consultant, I thought that that was not an entirely appropriate answer, that some plans for phasing, which we now are at, would have been appropriate. So I think there's been a lot of opportunities missed in this project. And then nonetheless, I think we have to move forward. We can't just kick the can down the road again. We can't cry over spilt milk, to use all the common aphorisms. So I think we have to go forward. But I just want to point out one other thing, that a bridge is not just a transportation route. This bridge is going to be a fairly tall bridge. It's going to be not only an important economic asset as well as a jobs asset, it is also going to be a landmark that people are going to see. It's going to be it's particularly for Vancouver, it's going to be something that we're going to notice. And I'm a little bit concerned that we don't know that it's going to be a bridge that we're going to look at and say, that's really pretty cool. We have a history of cool bridges in Oregon, and I hope that when it gets built and progressive design will end up with something that's going to actually be impressive, not just functional. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Councilor Huang.
Thank you, President Gonzalez. I just want to thank everyone for coming to testify. And when we move into the next phase of work, do want to ask some questions around future governance. I think many community members and folks at Metro spent a lot of time, at the CBA committee, and we had all these various subcommittees that have since sunsetted. And I'm wondering how we're thinking about governance and hard decision-making coming forward, and also what role does Metro and the council have kind of in future governance? Is it like we're done after this vote, or are there future MTIP amendments? How do we where do we have hard conversations in implementation?
So one, I would note that the states are working to sort of establish and understand what it means to have a bi-state governance structure between the two DOTs with respect to construction. So that is a live activity because it's very different than program development that we've been in. So that's an active conversation. The ESG is currently still up and operational. So I think it's just understanding what does that look like to iterate forward, both having the construction body of work and still having development and delivery activities. I know that the plan and what's important next is really having a conversation with executive steering committee members around what does it look like to sort of fund and sequence this program over time, and what are sort of priorities within that. So I anticipate that's going to be a rich and important conversation. And then with respect to engagement of the public, again, with respect to construction, looking to make sure that that is a good set of activities and information so that folks know what to expect and when, because that's the most important thing with construction, is just being transparent about what are there will be impacts, right? And recognizing how do we make sure that people are clear on those things, and where there is opportunity for do we sort of go this way or that way with respect to construction, if there are those questions, then, get public perspectives and opinions on them. And then making sure that there's appropriate engagement for design activities going forward. I think the other thing I would note is just that the work of the community benefits group, previous work on the architectural considerations, those pieces of those things are already being built into the procurement process now. We don't have our final reports, and so that's not transparent yet out to the world, I know, but we are working to make sure those things are built in already in the background. And then that exact form, I think the staff is trying to figure out what is an appropriate form for that public engagement space that is clear about what folks can influence versus not, and just not, not sort of implying things that aren't sort of up for discussion, but making sure that there's good, robust engagement where it's appropriate and possible.
Can you simply just explain where the public can provide oversight and input in the future?
So I would say that oversight is often a function of those who, fund and are responsible for delivery. And so I think that oversight space, when we have reporting on the website currently that sort of shares information about spending and other pieces, there is that oversight function around those who fund us. So with the Oregon and Washington legislatures, certainly also Oregon Transportation Commission. So I think that oversight piece is largely embedded within those funding organizations. And then the engagement is both through bodies like this as we are approaching. So as you mentioned earlier, the sort of MTIP, we anticipate, sort of annual amendments around that process. So from a formal perspective, that's anticipated as a Metro and other agency role in the area. And then the other piece of that is as we are figuring out what that public engagement looks like more generally about both good information out and questions regarding construction, as well as appropriate engagement for the design questions that are still ahead. So that's not yet formed, but the intention is to maintain that good dialogue with the public.
So we would anticipate future MTIP amendments over the
Yes. I think the expectation is probably annual for good, better, or worse, I don't know. But yes, the anticipation is we probably have annual updates as we are understanding new funds that maybe flow in and maybe readjustments that are needed between the activities that are active.
Okay, well, we look forward to seeing you frequently in the future.
You're welcome, or I'm sorry.
Thanks, Carly. Any other questions or comments before we call roll? Oh, yes, Councilor Nolan.
Yes, thank you. Sorry, Madam Chair. Thanks, Mr. President. This is more of a comment than a question. We're at comments.
Yeah, so
Are
we
in
got,
discussion on the,
The motion's been moved.
okay, great.
Yep.
I join in the ambitions that this project promotes of improving safety, lessening congestion, employing people with real work, and updating our infrastructure to this century. But none of those require an answer that is this particular design. Indeed, for other benefits for the community, long-term environmental stewardship, neighborhood preservation in historically Black neighborhoods, other designs would have suited those much more effectively and likely at lower cost. I continue to mourn that we have chosen a path that I think will be detrimental to hundreds of thousands of people that I represent on this council. And I think we have missed multiple opportunities to think more comprehensively about how we meet our objectives. And nothing in these particular amendments convinces me otherwise either. We're better than this, and I'm sorry that we haven't risen to it in this project.
all right, thank you for your comments, Counselor. Anything else from the body? Okay, seeing none. Carly, thank you. I'm gonna formally close public comment just in case I haven't done so already. And I will call on Georgia to roll call on the motion on hand. That was again moved by Counselor Lewis and seconded by Counselor Simpson.
You bet. Counselor Nolan?
No.
Counselor Lewis?
Aye.
Counselor Wong?
Aye.
Counselor Simpson?
I'm a resounding yes today on the IBR MTIP because this project needs to move forward. We need to bring this federal funding to the region, to bring jobs to our economy, to bring stabilization to our families, to support our transportation system and our investments in infrastructure. But after our vote today, I would like to discuss with the council a draft letter which I'm proposing to send to the IBR team that communicates our values and what success looks like as we move forward. So yes.
Counselor Rosenthal?
Fingers crossed, yes.
And Council President Gonzalez?
Yes, thank you. The motion passes and we're able to move forward on that. All right, well, now on to other business. As Counselor Simpson mentioned during his remarks during the vote, we'll turn the floor over to you to discuss the letter that you've shared with us.
Thank you, Council President Gonzalez. Colleagues, the Interstate Bridge Replacement Program is one of the most significant investments our region will see and has seen in decades. I want to start with a simple point. Infrastructure alone does not deliver outcomes for everyone. We have to build that in and hold it and ourselves accountable to our values and the values of this region. The IBR program has made an important commitments around workforce development, community benefits, and small business participation. That's why today I voted yes on the MTIP, because we need to build a bridge, but we're still seeing a gap between those commitments and clear implementation, which is why I'm bringing this council to you all as a council. I believe that the staff added the draft to the meeting packet, and I sent you all a draft last night. I hope you had a chance to review it. If not, we can hopefully, with your graciousness, President Gonzalez, you allow folks to take a couple of seconds to read or look through it. If not, there are copies in front of you today as well. The letter is not creating any new policy, but is an affirmation of Metro's values and the values of this region. It is really about what success looks like on the ground. And yes, we need to build a bridge, but we all know what we want more than that for this region, and that's for people who are building it and being impacted by it to be taken care of by this project. So I'm not looking for really any line item edits, but really a thumbs up in sending a letter that calls for operationalizing the community benefits identified by the program's Community Benefits Advisory Group, strengthening workforce pathways and pre-apprenticeship programs, real measurable small and disadvantaged business participation, and transparent reporting and accountability. This is not meant to be an adversarial letter. It's meant to be about alignment and partnership. We want this project to succeed, but success needs to include meaningful outcomes for the communities we serve, particularly those communities of color that have been impacted. So I'm looking around, can I get your support or a thumbs up on sending a letter to the IBR team to communicate what success looks like for this project? And I'm open to any questions. Thank you.
Thanks, yeah, let's have a conversation. Please, let's raise our virtual hands so we can queue up here. I see Councilor Nolan, you'll be the first. I saw. This is the first letter that I manage in my new role, like this kind of new process, so definitely want to make sure that we have a positive and constructive discussion. Just so I understand, just straight from the get-go, Councilor, are you looking for this letter to come on behalf of the Metro Council?
Yes, sir, I am.
Okay, perfect. Thank you so much. All right, so now that being established, Councilor Nolan.
Thanks, Mr. Chair. Given what you just heard from me, I can't support a letter that talks about strong reaffirming, which we just did, so why we need to do it again is a little beyond me. But the other essence around jobs within this letter, I can support. So if you'd strike the first paragraph, I'd be happy to go along. But if not, I can't support something that says I reaffirm something I just voted against. I appreciate all the other comments about jobs and neighborhood preservation and economic development benefits of a major public infrastructure project.
Okay.
Councilor Rosenthal, and then Councilor Lewis, were you gonna say something too?
I sure can.
Yeah, okay, I feel like I saw you debating if you wanted to share anything, but Councilor Rosenthal, and then we can go to Councilor Lewis.
Thank you, Chair Gonzalez. I have had a chance to look at the letter, and I think it's basically all right. It commits itself to an investment in the project, not necessarily to the specific project that we have. And the one caveat, and I think it brings up points that all of which are important and all of which are our Metro values, it's going to take some work for us to pay attention to these, and I suspect that every time we have the Interstate Bridge team come to us, we should bring this letter up. The only concern, and I've talked to Councilor Simpson about this, is when we talk in workforce development, I think we need to expand the workforce development to include not just journeyman and construction pathways, but also engineering skills and project management skills that all consultants use and develop. We should encourage all the skills that anybody who is working on the project can develop to the best of their abilities. And so I think we should maybe expand that just slightly.
I concur and I agree. As a former project engineer myself, I do see an increase in that demographic as we increase folks who swing hammers. So
Thank you.
I can definitely make that change for you.
Thanks. We'll go to Councilor Lewis, and then Councilor Wong.
Sure, thank you so much. I really appreciate particularly the work that was done to bring the workforce language up into this conversation. And I think that the letter was developed kind of concurrently to Commissioner Singleton's resolution or amendment that actually ended up in the base of the amendment. So I'm glad that we are moving forward both with the policy as well as the statement of values. Metro's work over workforce over the past 15 years has been significant. I think it's a place where we can continue to add value as cheerleaders, as opinion leaders, and as a body that has actually put the structure around how to do the measurements that we hope to see. Even if the federal government doesn't want to see it, we do want to see it. Thank you.
Thanks, Councilor. Councilor Wong.
Thank you, and thank you to Councilor Simpson. I think it's a well-reasoned and appropriate letter. Thank you. I think President Gonzalez, I think this highlights one of the challenges that we have with letters from council, and I think that's something that we need to address in our future retreat. And then we had the same issue last flood session. So I don't know if it comes from you as president or individual councilors. Do we sign on?
That's going to be my next,
Okay.
or how I wanted to address that. But did you want to share anything else?
No, I think the content's great. I just want to be sure that we have a consistent process because this council does issue letters and then there are dissenters.
Yeah.
And it says it comes from council, but just want to be clear and that we have a consistent process now and going into the future around how we, express our viewpoints as a council, but also have space for alternate viewpoints as well.
Yeah, absolutely. I was thinking about that too as the letter was coming up and seeing that we just had our vote and we had a no vote from Councilor Nolan, how we wanted to approach a letter being sent on behalf of the council. I know that under President Peterson's tenure, and I believe that was the practice before, when there wasn't a unanimous support from the council, the letter would come from the council president. Is that something that this group wants to move forward with now? I can't recall the last time that we sent a letter with 6 signatures or 5 signatures or kind of breaking it out, but I'm open to what folks want to do, acknowledging the fact that we haven't had our retreat yet. We need to work through some of these through some of these items, like you mentioned, Councilor Wong. So I'm open for that question and how folks want to approach it, making sure that we're being fair in terms of how the council's perspective is reflected. And one last thought there. As individual councilors, our power is quite limited, right? Our power is when we are together on this dais and we make policy, we direct staff. That is where our power comes from. And so I do think it's important for these letters to come here and for us to discuss how we want to leverage our voice. And so Councilor Nolan, I see your hand raised.
I do, and thank you, Mr. Chair. This discussion, which Councilor Simpson didn't want to have, didn't want to have a line item discussion, and I don't want to debate every line. But it calls to mind the question Councilor Wong raised before we voted on the resolution. He asked Carly, what opportunity does the public have to influence what happens next? Are we done with this vote, or is there an opportunity for the public to participate? I didn't hear a clear answer from Carly, so what that tells me is that the answer is none. And I think the project in its development has demonstrated. We can submit letters to the IBR Leadership Committee, to the Executive Steering Committee, and say, we insist that it go this way. And they say, thanks, not interested. So if we could put that on our conversation as well about letters that we send on behalf of Metro, because I think they ought to include what we will actually do.
Yeah, thank you.
To monitor, to insist, to enforce our expectations, because otherwise we won't change anything.
Yeah, thanks, Councilor. So if I would like to invite someone from our planning team, maybe Malou or Ted, whoever can, just to talk about our function as an MPO and how we anticipate to be involved in our oversight and action based off of what we've done so far. It could be helpful to just understand that as we go forward. And then I have a second bit after this.
Okay, I think President Gonzalez, there are 2 answers, and I'll give one and Ted can give the other, because there's the MPO answer, and then there's also the way that we're partnering with the IBR program on as they work their way through the project itself. And so the executive steering group, which President Gonzalez, you're serving on that can, and along with staff level groups, are continuing to meet, that include staff from the 8 project partners, and Metro will continue to participate at that level as the program continues to make decisions about both the core funded project that you all moved forward with the decision on the MTIP amendment today, and then the next phase, which is the light rail component, and that is an area that we are very accustomed to partnering around the region as the program works to hopefully secure the federal funding through the Capital Investment Grant Program. So Kelly Betteridge and on my team and her team will be working with the IBR program on that element. And so that's the project side. And then I'll ask Ted to talk about the MPO side.
Thank you, Milou. For the record, Ted Liebold, Transportation Policy Director here at Metro. So as Milou mentioned, there is also our Metro's function as one of the policy boards of the Metropolitan Planning Organization. And all decisions that are federally required for projects as they go through their funding process relative to programming within the Metropolitan Transportation Improvement Program and with their inclusion in the Long Range Regional Transportation Plan have a set of federal expectations and requirements as they do that, and as the MPO you enforce those requirements. But they are typically at a higher level, starting with the Regional Transportation Plan itself. That has to be, the project has to be included in the I'll call it the RTP for short, and that has to be financially constrained RTP, so they have to do a project cost estimate, and then they, the project, lead agencies will nominate that project for inclusion. You, JPACT and yourselves have to improve the inclusion of that project in the RTP. And then when they actually receive federal funding, that has to be programmed in the Metropolitan Transportation Improvement Program. The rules around the Metropolitan Transportation Improvement Program and your role as the MPO is that the project has to show consistency with the Regional Transportation Plan policies, and it also has to demonstrate that it has the available funding to carry out what is described in the scope and programming of that project as proposed for inclusion in the Metropolitan Transportation Improvement Program. So along each step of those ways, when you are asked to approve those, there is your role as enforcing the federal regulations for inclusion in those two documents. And then as you do that, you can also provide commentary in addition to use that as an opportunity to provide commentary on how the project is progressing and your desire to see its how it does progress. But it is limited to the consistency with the RTP requirement itself, and then the eligibility of the funding and its use on that project being consistent with the RTP. So that's your MPO role involvement.
Thanks for that. And another important part that I'm taking from Councilor Nolan's point too is like the role that these letters have and the monitor, the insistence, the enforcement of council or Metro direction. I could talk about kind of what the way that I've seen them used, and I want to hear from your perspective since we're talking about transportation related letters right now. Is the way that I've seen our letters is, aside from a specific vote that adopts a policy, it is a pretty clear direction from Metro Council in terms of like the Metro Council's perspective. And so this letter for you, I'm assuming would give you the opportunity to quite clearly be able to point back to a document when doing staff to staff project management, project deliberation, potential negotiation of small details to implement the vision of Metro throughout the work of the project. That's kind of the way that I've seen these implemented over time in action. Would you agree with that? And also, how would a letter like this, or for a parallel project, 82nd TV Highway, how would it inform the way that you as our staff are implementing the vision of the Metro Council?
President Gonzalez, you really did a nice job of explaining how it would, how it helps us understand the policy guidance of the Metro Council. So when you have written down documents, that really gives us the backup that we need when we are representing you with our partners around the region on various projects, whether it is a transportation project or it is a different type of policy. But for this letter in particular, should you all agree to send the letter to the IBR program, it will help us as we're continuing to work with the program team over the course of upcoming decisions that they're going to be making as they move through the process that Carly described, headed towards beginning construction in 2028.
Yeah, thank you. Okay. I know I didn't cover all the things, but I wanted to make sure we do that. So Councilor Nolan?
So this council has been very clear at the Executive Steering Committee, at other public forums, that we insist on having light rail across this bridge, and yet the project has balkanized, the project leadership has balkanized the project so that it's not in the first phase of funding. So that sends a pretty clear message to me that we might say, we'd really like this, pretty please, if you don't mind, sir, but we have no enforcement capacity. Am I wrong? I mean, once, as Councilor Huang asked earlier today, once we approve this amendment, we can't call it back, can we? We can't say, oh, you're not doing what we want, so we're going to stop work on this project. What real power do we have after the vote's been taken?
President Gonzalez, should I answer?
Yes, please.
Okay.
Yeah.
And do you have an?
Yeah, why don't I start with the
Okay.
MPO portion, and
Okay.
then you can add the project portion.
Yeah.
So,
And before you answer, can we also talk about why it's been sequenced in this way? I mean, it is important to acknowledge that the bridge is moving forward light rail. And it's just a matter of the sequencing of the funding. And anyway, so please.
Yeah, maybe actually it's helpful to talk about the way that a project would be built. So whether, if we had a clear funding path in our region for the $15 billion, regardless of, if we had that money, which we would love to
What was that
have.
number again?
It's 15 billion, I think, for the full 5 mile, everything included. I think that it's 13 to 15 billion. And if we had all of
Twice
that.
what it was 2 years ago.
If we had all of that funding, Councilor Nolan, the construction would still be following the path that is laid out right now, which would be the bridge first, because you need the bridge to put the light rail on. As it is right now, there is around $6 billion that has been identified to invest in this bridge. And that is the first funded phase moving forward. That includes the width of the bridge for the light rail, so it's ready for the light rail, and it includes the funding to keep the light rail design moving forward. And I know that you as a council understand that the light rail is going to be funded with a large investment through a competitive program, the Capital Investment Grant Program. Our region has been really successful over the past decades in being able to be competitive for that funding, but that is not confirmed funding yet. And yet without the bridge moving forward, there's no potential to have that light rail move forward either. And so that is the approach that the IBR program is moving forward with. And no, there's not a guarantee that that funding will be available, but we know the funding will not be available should the first part not move forward. So it's a bit of a, you have to do one in order to get to the next. Nothing is for certain, other than that if we stop now, we definitely will not have a bridge or light rail.
yeah, and I would just add to that, how a project does progress is when they do win the grant funding, the competitive grant funding, they have to program it as it becomes available. And they have not secured the light rail CIG funding yet, so they can't program it in the MTIP. But with the potential consequences of losing the ability to obligate the funding they do have in hand for the bridge, they have to program that now to be able to proceed to get that funding for the project. And so this project, should it continue to progress, we'll be back for additional TIP amendments to JPAC and the council to program the funding that becomes, the federal program that becomes available.
Thanks. Councilor Nolan, is your hand still up?
I'll take it down, but I can't participate in willful naivete, which I think is what's going on here.
Okay. Well, coming back to the conversation about the letter, in the past, when we haven't had full council agreement, the letters come from the council president. That is what my gut instinct is telling me that we should do in this circumstance. Councilor Huang, I appreciate you bringing up the letter from the legislative session. What I want to ensure happens is, when the Metro Council acts, and we have a majority of the Metro Council act, that is essentially the position of Metro Council and of Metro, even if there are dissenting voices. What I think we do not have developed adequately or do not have in place right now is how we give the opportunity for those dissenting voices to either show up in a documentation or others, and honestly what the rules of engagement are in terms of, there's this official Metro Council document going out. That doesn't stop an individual councilor from then, going out and making a different statement, right? And so I want to acknowledge that there's a tension there that I want us to continue working through. I think we'll have to spend some time as we're doing that, but seeing that this is the first letter that we're working through with me as the council president and learning from our past experiences, wanted to surface the tensions there. So if there are no concerns with the letter moving forward with my signature as is, I think that is fairly appropriate given the circumstances. Any other comments or questions? Okay, seeing none, thank you, Councilor Simpson, for your leadership in pulling this together. All right, so this concludes our formal business meeting, so I will adjourn our business meeting. We will immediately now move into a work session, and we are now convened as the Metro Council under a work session, so look at that. We're moving forward. We have two presentations today. We have one for our Future Vision project, and another which is a Parks and Nature roadmap. We're welcoming back the Future Vision team to share an overview of public engagement, of the public engagement plan conducted so far, and to have time for councilors to share their priorities for the upcoming summit happening this fall. We have with us today a cadre of wonderful planners who I will allow to introduce themselves. But thank you so much for coming, and look forward to the conversation.
Thanks, President Gonzalez, councilors. I know it's been a long morning already. For the record, Jess Sadeb, I'm a principal regional planner here at Metro and the project manager for the Future Vision project. We're here today, as President Gonzalez mentioned, with some initial report out on engagement that happened this spring. We'll be going deeper on that in your July 23rd meeting, and then also seeking some feedback from you on an event that we'll be holding this fall. Next slide, please. This is what we're talking about. Next slide. Just as a reminder, I always want to come back to this. Your guidance to the project team in our scoping last year was that not only do you want to end up with an updated 50-year vision for the region, but also that our process really should lead to a group of galvanized partners who want to work on this together. We've really used that guidance as kind of our North Star in developing the process for this project. So everything that we talk about today should really be viewed with that light, that we're working toward trying to create excitement beyond just Metro in this vision. Next slide, please. As a reminder too, this is what the vision will consist of. At the end of the day, the core of the vision will be a set of aspirational statements. Who do we want to be in 50 years? We'll be grouping those into focus areas. Today, what we're going to be talking about is that engagement that's getting to a set of shared regional values, reflecting back what the community says they really care about here in this region, what they want to carry forward. Last week, you talked about drivers of change and heard more about thinking in that 50-year future-oriented mindset. That is the research input to this process that will inform the aspirations. Next slide, please. And just one final reminder, we are here. It is mid-June. We completed that round of engagement this spring. We are in the midst of several interesting and exciting expert panels, which I know some of you have attended and can watch recordings of if you were not able to. We're going to be heading out into the community this summer, tabling in each of your districts a couple times about this project, keeping excitement up and knowledge about what we're doing. But just noting this is where we're at. We're hoping to come back to you in the spring with a recommendation for a vision to consider. All right, next slide. And then I'm going to hand it over to Laura to talk a bit about the engagement that we did this spring.
Great, thanks Jess. Good morning everyone. My name is Laura Combs. I use she, her pronouns, and I'm an associate regional planner and doing the deputy project managing focused on engagement for the Future Vision. So just as a reminder, this phase of engagement started back in early March and continued through the end of May. We used a variety of events and tools to hear from community members about what they love about the region today, what they want the region to be known for in the future, and what challenges that they hope are addressed by the time we reach 2077. These answers were gathered through a variety of conversation kits, a survey, through a lot of discussion at a variety of meetings, and even through an interactive artist residency. And at the end of the day, all of this engagement is to ensure that the vision is really grounded in a strong foundation of shared regional values that's meeting one of the goals of this process, that the vision is resonant with and relevant to the people of the region. Next slide. So while today we'll be sharing some high-level highlights from what we're learning specifically from the survey, these responses are just one piece of the puzzle, and we'll be continuing to synthesize information from a variety of sources to understand those shared regional values. While the survey responses are very important, we will be uplifting other sources of feedback, such as the review of the visions and the long-range plans, and feedback that we heard in meetings and conversations, and all of the qualitative information from the conversation kits and postcards as well. This information we'll be able to bring back at the July work session, but just wanted to remind you all as we get into more details around the survey itself that that won't be our only source of information to create those shared regional values. Next slide, please. So just some high-level information about what we've accomplished during this first phase of broad public engagement. We've dropped off physical materials in many libraries all around the region, so folks that weren't seeing information online had a way to access the survey and to learn about the project. We received over 2,100 responses to the survey, but that also does not encompass all the information that we heard at committee meetings, community organization events, and discussions both with our government partners and CBOs. We had 5 different languages that participants responded in. This was definitely one of the highlights of this round of engagement. We had over 100 in-language survey responses, which is above our normal response rate for our typical engagement processes. We received over 40 conversation kits and postcards, which was a fun way of just hearing what folks are thinking in both more in-depth ways, as well as just a quick note to the future. Those were 2 new tools that we tried out during this effort that was really fun to see folks resonate with. I also wanted to highlight a couple of other events that aren't represented on this stats page. We started off all of this engagement with our 3-day artist residency back at the beginning of March. That event prompted reflections from attendees through discussion and also engagement activities. And the thread of arts and culture has continued through this phase of engagement with 2 different poetry workshops and events that we've had with local poetry community organizations that have brought more people into this work and thinking with that artistic mindset. Next slide, please. This is just a couple of highlights of the different ways that we did engagement during this phase. You can see one of the postcards in the top middle of the slide that folks were writing in to write a letter to the future. We used a variety of social media, both with our government partners who were able to share materials easily through a communications toolkit that we created. We also did promotional social media in other languages. The bottom middle, you'll may remember the artist residency that kicked all of this off, and just some other images about the poetry workshop, the conversation kit, and then we even got a little bit of a jump start on our tabling by attending a couple of events at the M&M Marketplace in Hillsborough. Next slide. So before Jess shares some more information about the survey analysis itself, we just wanted to remind you all about what were those core questions that were in the survey. These were the questions that prompted folks to reflect on what they love about the region today, what they want it to be known for in the future, and what challenges that are on their minds today that they hope are no longer concerns in the future. Next slide. These are just a couple of demographic and summary statistics from our just response rate itself. When we look at the chart that shows years living in Portland, this is pretty typical for Metro engagement processes. We know that people who have been in the region for a longer time are likely just to be more familiar with Metro and the work that we do, and probably tend to have stronger feelings about what they appreciate about the region and what they want to stay the same and what they want to change. On the average participant age side, we didn't see as many survey responses from young people as we would have hoped, but we are continually addressing that gap through our really intentional efforts with the Future Vision Youth Committee and with hosting our large summer event called the Future Fest, which I'll talk about a little bit later this morning. We know that the youth perspective is different than the average participant in this kind of engagement, so we want to make sure that we're continually uplifting that and continuing our really intentional approach with hearing those voices in this project. All right, now I'll hand it over to Jess to get into some more information about our survey results.
Great, thanks, Laura. Just as a reminder, these are a couple first takeaways from analysis of the survey. What I want you to be thinking about as you take a look at these is, based on those questions that we asked folks, what are the other kinds of questions that you would have about analyzing the survey? You know, we asked people to describe the region today. We asked people to describe the region in the future. We asked people what their concerns are today that they would like to no longer be concerns in 2077. And we also asked people what it is they cherish about this region today that they would like to continue on into the future for us to protect and preserve for future generations. So just have those questions in your mind as you're hearing about the results. All right, next slide, please. So at a really high level, unsurprisingly, people tell us things that they both like and don't really like about the region when we ask them to describe it today. A higher percentage of people use affirming words, sort of more positive words about the region when they're describing it. We ask folks to, what are the 3 words or short phrases that describe the region to you today? Among those are things related to natural areas, natural beauty, food and beverage, clean water and air, recreation, it's livable. In the sort of concerning category, people describe the region in topics about things like gentrification, high cost of living, it's expensive, homelessness, traffic. These are all things that we're kind of not surprised to hear about. I think it's interesting to note that about 2/3 of people used at least one of their 3 words to express a concern. You know, people both like living here and they want to see it be better. Next slide. This is not surprising to kind of anyone who tracks what Metro hears when we ask folks what they love about this region, that when we're asking people to describe the region today, many people center on nature, green space, and stewardship. The second highest answer when we ask people to describe today is around community and belonging, and then other things that really Metro has had a role in cultivating over the years: walkability, transit and access, arts, culture, and creativity. When you ask people what it is that they want to preserve for future generations, these are also the highest answers up there, which to me says a little bit about people believing that these are things that we actively need to work toward preserving, that they don't just believe are going to be here in the future without us taking action. Next slide, please. So we have 2 slides like this. This first one is just about thinking, you know, how people describe the region today and what is it that they cherish and want to preserve, kind of related to that last slide. Things don't really change between today and the future when thinking about what it is they love and want to preserve. Nature, community, walkability, arts and culture, they're all still really up there. There's this small flip between sort of vibrancy and livability, but things are pretty consistent between what they like and what folks want to preserve. Next slide, please. The one thing here that is really interesting to me is that when we're asking people to describe today, some of their concerns are listed there on the left: cost, homelessness, economic decline, traffic, distrust in government, crime, infrastructure, and social division. People today clearly are concerned about economic decline. We're having a moment here in this region, in this state, but when they're thinking about looking ahead those 50 years, it's not top of mind thinking that far in the future, which to me says folks understand that this is a cycle and that this is something that we will not necessarily have to be concerned about in 50 years because they understand that this is just a cycle that we move through. Next slide, please. One thing we've started to do is break down the data a little bit based upon where people live in the region. This slide shows that even though homelessness and cost of living are the #1 and 2 concerns across kind of all place types in the region, the underlying language that people use to describe those or associate with those 2 concerns is a bit different across these place types in the region. I do want to note that the rural answers here have a small n. It's just a small number of responses. So just noting that. But you can see the words that kind of people associate with these challenges at the bottom of the slides here. So in urban areas, people are more concerned about, more concerned than the other parts of the region about economic decline, roads and infrastructure, social division. In suburban areas, it's that question about infrastructure is actually more sort of traffic and cars and crime and safety. And then lastly, in the rural areas, those folks kind of over-index on a distrust of Metro, which is a little bit unsurprising because we don't actually represent that many rural areas and engage with them around the region. Concerns as well about taxes and regulation and pollution in data centers. All right, next slide, please. Some of the other breakdown we've started to do is also by how people self-represent in the survey. So these are, we have smaller numbers of responses from people who self-identified as Native American, Black, Hispanic, Latino, and Asian. But we want to make sure in our reporting that we don't just gloss over the fact that there are differences between how those groups express themselves and the overall sentiments of the people who we heard from in the survey. So this slide just calls out some of the ways that we are differentiating what we heard from those groups. So for instance, unsurprisingly perhaps, folks who identified as Black name gentrification as an active threat to Black neighborhoods and culture and want to make sure that the region preserves and grows these communities and is not displacing them. And so that is something that we're hearing specifically from that community and not from others necessarily in our responses. Next slide, please. And then lastly, I just want to come back to what people really are telling us about the future, that when we ask them, what are the words that you would like someone in the future to use to describe this region? Again, it's green and natural, but then second in that is welcoming, diverse, and equitable kind of themes. And we also, in starting to break this down as well by respondents, we are hearing that welcoming is the single most named aspiration for some of those subgroups, Asian, Hispanic, and Black respondents, that they are responding more with that than necessarily with green and natural, even though that is also a theme that just shows up generally across respondents. So that's just a taste of what we are starting to look at in the survey. So we'd really love to hear from you at the end of this, what else it is you'd like us to look at. So I'll hand it back to Laura to talk about the 2 upcoming big events for us.
Great. Next slide, please. So I'm going to speak a little bit about these 2 large events that we're starting to plan in the coming months, where we will be sharing out values and guiding principles and then shifting focus to developing the aspirations. Next slide. So it's official. We have the date and time and place for our youth summit, which we are now calling the Future Fest. This will be later this summer in August at PSU. Our targeted audience for this will be youth from all across the region, middle and high school and post-high school aged. We have a lot of planned activities to make this day both engaging, fun, and also really educational. So that will happen through workshops, interactive and live art. We're planning to have a resource fair there where CBOs that work with youth can be there to share information about their organization, and also have some small group discussions. We're really looking to the youth committee to help us guide the format and structure of this event, and they've been heavily involved with creating all the plans that we have so far. They will also be the lead ambassadors of the event, and they're all playing different roles in helping to welcome other youth and to lead and facilitate the activities throughout the day. I did want to highlight that the workshop themes that we have planned for this day are also informed by the interests and the values that we've heard from the youth so far. So we will have one that's about housing and community stability, one about youth voice and civic life, one about culture, identity, and belonging, and one about climate and economic justice. So we're really excited to have all those different topic areas for them to explore and really engage with. Next slide, please. So the key objectives of this event are to bring more youth voice into the process overall, both to understand about the point of doing the future vision and what Metro is, and also so that they can see their role in developing the vision and in implementing it. We plan to bring a lot of tools to the event, kind of like some of the training that you all have been doing with getting into a futures mindset, as well as bringing other cultural ways of thinking like Afrofuturism and relational worldview, just to expose them and help open their minds into getting into that futures thinking mindset. And the primary goal that helps connect this to the Vision Summit is that we're having the youth start to brainstorm the aspirations. We really wanted this event to happen first so that all of the feedback and input that they share is the grounding foundational information that is going into the Vision Summit. Next slide, please. So right now our team is also starting to plan for the Vision Summit. So this will be in October, and the audience for this event, we want it to be a large cross-sector representational event where we're bringing thought leaders, energized community members, experts all together to start thinking about those aspirational statements as well. You all may remember the Creating Our Shared Future event that happened last fall, or other similar events like Reimagining the River. That's a similar invite list of what we're thinking, but we're also working with our other leaders across Metro to make sure that we're identifying the right people to be there. Yeah, I think that's it for this one. Key activities for this will be to hear about all the takeaways from the Future Fest, have some facilitated small group discussions, and also have some reporting out from experts as well. But at the end of the day, we want to leave this with some of those draft aspirations that we can continue to refine later on following the event at Vision Tables. Next slide, please. So these are the draft desired outcomes for the event that we have pulled together from our PD&R project team and leadership, and as well as our cross-departmental leadership group. So this is our starting point that we wanted to bring to you all for your feedback and reflection to make sure that we're on the right track with how we're planning and framing this event to achieve these results. A big highlight as well that kind of cuts through all of this is to have an element of art and culture to be in this event as well. There will be space to do that because of the new grant funds to support artists for them to create pieces that are inspired about thinking about the future. So we expect that this event is a place for that art to be showcased and to be a part of the learning that's going on. Yeah, and then so as we draft aspirations at this event, this will not be the only opportunity for folks to weigh in on that part of the process. Following the summit, we'll be hosting vision tables for folks to have additional time to dig in and reflect on the work that's done to the summit and to build on it. For example, we're planning a joint JPACT and MPAC workshop in late October for that dedicated space for elected officials. And we're also already planning another follow-up event with the Intertwine Alliance as a follow-up of the Parks and Nature Lab event that was held earlier this month. We're also hoping that these vision tables are a space that we can offer financial resources to CBOs to help host conversations with harder to reach community members so that they also have a chance to reflect on the aspirational statements and make sure that, that it's resonant to them as well. Next slide.
So these are the questions that we have for you today. Thinking back on that survey, again, are there specific analyses or questions that what we have as results, or what would you like to see when we come back in July? And then given those draft outcomes that we've put together for the Vision Summit, is there anything else that you would like to see out of that event as an outcome?
Lovely. Thank you. All right, council, any conversation or question? During our future vision meeting, the last one, we had the same update on the survey and values. And I got the sense that the Future Vision Commission truly just cherished the presentation. And I've gotten a lot of presentations in my time as an elected official about surveys, how people feel, what do they value, how can you disaggregate to like understand. This is one of the best like disaggregated, tabulated presentations that I've ever seen. I feel that way. During the meeting, we also had like different packets that gave quotes and insights that was just so enriching. I took this photo of a quote that inspired me. It's like, I love Portland and I'm not giving up on it. We need to fight for our city daily to bring it back. Just that to me, that spirit of one of the main themes that emerged from here. It's like people betting on this place that we love and we know it can be better. And the fact that there's thousands of people that kind of feel that way, I'm like, okay, look at us as neighbors and how we feel. So anyway, I just wanted to say just kudos to the Future Vision team for that. And in the table that we had, we kind of divide up into groups, small groups to discuss this. Each of the group had members of the Youth Vision Commission as well. So there was a 15-year-old that was in our circle, and he was like, hey, as someone that's old, do you want to tell me what you think? And I was like, wow, how the tables have turned. But it was just so wonderful to spend time, and this Future Fest is going to be wonderful. I got really excited as I was waiting for councilors to put their hands up, but we'll go to Councilor Nolan for comments, question, discussion, and then we'll go to Councilor Rosenthal.
Question first, and maybe, or just a clarification and then maybe a comment, but the Future Fest in August and the Vision Summit in October, how does one attend those? Are they open to the public, and are we advertising them in all of our partner organizations and neighborhood newsletters and things, or are we planning it to be invitation only?
It's a different answer for each. I'll let Laura talk about the Future Fest.
Yeah, so we've been really sending out a lot of save the dates for the Future Fest. That is open invite to any youth that wants to attend. We started with trying to reach as many of the schools that we could before the end of the school year so they could share the information with their students. And then my colleague Gloria and I have been going through a list of youth serving CBOs. We've reached out to all of the youth councils in the region so that they can invite their members. So yeah, we're going through the process right now of trying to spread the word as much as possible, and also working with our communications team to make sure information about it is shared through our Future Vision communication and all of our other communication channels we've been using to share information about the project.
And sounds to me then like the adult party is invitation only.
That's correct. So the idea is that we're trying to curate a room of people who are likely to be those people who we want to be those galvanized partners who can take action in the future to help implement the vision. That, as Laura said, is not the only space where the aspirations will be discussed. The idea is that that is folks, community-based organization leaders, philanthropic folks, business community, elected officials. We, as Laura said, we're going to work across all of our metro departments to make sure that we're not just inviting, planning stakeholders. We're going to be talking to all of our colleagues across the agency, like we did for the event we had last fall. And so the idea is that that is a first place where taking the input from the Future Fest, folks put pen to paper on aspirations, and then those follow-up smaller group conversations and vision tables are a space of refinement, building upon those aspirations, that then really it's up to the Future Vision Commission to take all of that input and draft the draft vision that will come to you all for consideration.
So did I miss it, or is there a place in this process for old people like Council President Gonzalez to come to an open mic?
In what sense an open mic?
Well, like I envision the Youth Fest to be.
We have not yet set the format of the Vision Summit, so I think that that's what we're asking for you all to consider today and give us feedback on, is like, what are the outcomes that you want from that event? We can put back up the slide that has the draft ones that we've worked on so far, but if having a space for individuals to opine in front of their fellow, hopefully galvanized partners in implementation is a desired outcome, then we can use that to help figure out what the format looks like.
But you're not currently planning on there being an event open to the public that people older than 25 can participate in. Is that right?
No, that's correct.
Okay.
Councilor Rosenthal.
Thank you, President Gonzalez. Two things. First of all, just questions and piqued my interest when you were going through the slides. One is that crime and safety seem to be a key element in the suburban areas, but not in the downtown or the core areas. I thought that was interesting. That might deserve some further analysis. And secondly, on one of the slides where it showed aspirations, good governance was at the very lowest aspirational aspect. And I'm just wondering what that might indicate. And then just sort of a broader thought concept is, Portland has been changed profoundly in the past by the visions or specific actions of certain key individuals or key entities. Olmsted changed Portland with his visions of parks, and then the visions of two electronic engineers from Corvallis who created Tektronix has created a Portland area that is different from what was originally thought of as a lumbering town. So I'm just wondering, what is the role, or maybe something to consider at the Vision Fest, what is the role of individual strong visions or individual creative actions? I don't think we can answer that here.
No, but I think part of the goal is to get a room full of people who have strong visions and potentially opposing ones, or ones that we are looking for commonalities across, right? Like getting enough people into a room who care very deeply about this region and its future and its success, but see different pathways to get there. I think that part of that effort is to figure out how to bring them to a set of common values and aspirations where they do see themselves, their communities, their organizations in that vision. So yes, every individual is going to have strong opinions about what that vision looks like, and it's our hard work to reconcile them. And it's not just in that single space. Those vision tables afterward will be an opportunity to bring together groups of members of the public who may not be at the Vision Summit as invitees. And then I do also want to make clear that there is a second round of public engagement as well, broad public engagement on the draft vision, where that will be similar to this round of engagement, where we have lots of presentations out there in the community, a broad public survey, kind of similar level of effort to be hearing from community members more broadly about what they think of those draft aspirations.
Thanks. Councilor Huang.
Thank you, President Gonzalez, and thanks for all the thinking that's gone into all these events and the surveys. Of kind of two questions. I guess the first is, having not been here in the 90s, and I don't know if you were, but are we capturing the same kind of like input and zeitgeist that we did in the 90s? In the beginning we heard like people could go to Blockbuster and like check out videos and like, we had these like big town halls, and I'm just wondering, are we experiencing less engagement, more engagement in line with the previous Future Vision? Like, I'm kind of curious about, do people care like they did in the 90s sort of thing?
So one distinction to draw is that engagement really was around the 2040 growth concept. The Future Vision itself was a separate effort that was really mostly informed by the people who were on the Future Vision Commission. The Blockbuster video, the mailer, the 3D glasses, like all of that was actually about the growth concept, which was informed by the Future Vision. They were happening in a similar time frame, but all of those kind of stories that we hear about around big public engagement and conversation was actually about the growth concept, not the vision. People are tired. There's a lot going on in the world. I think that we heard from fewer people in this round of engagement in terms of the online survey than we would have anticipated, given all of the ways that we were physically out there presenting, putting physical materials in places around the region, using our social media, that of partners, that of government agencies to get the word out there. So I think it's a challenging time to get people's attention. It's also a challenging time to ask people to think into the future as far as we are asking them to do so, when you don't have the opportunity to just like sit down and have a conversation where you can kind of draw people out. That was a purpose of the conversation kits, was to get people talking to one another at a human level. I think just asking someone to start thinking 50 years in the future on a survey in a non-conversational way is a really hard thing to do. So I would say that I think we wish we heard from more people in the survey, but again, it's not the only way that we're asking folks what they want to see in the region. Laura mentioned that for the fall, we are anticipating kind of a second round of outreach to community-based organization offering resources like we did this spring. We did reach out to CBOs saying, we would love for your help in reaching out to your communities. We have resources to help you do this. The uptake just wasn't there. Folks are busy, they're tired, they've got things that are going on in their own communities that are more pressing and day-to-day. But if we can start those conversations now about a request for the fall, I think that our hope is that we get a little more uptake and make sure that the voices that those CBOs represent are brought into the process.
Okay.
Yeah.
So more work to do.
Mm-hmm.
And I guess my second question on some of the topics that have kind of percolated is like how are you thinking about like kind of the durability of some of the concerns coming up now? I was kind of struck by, immigration enforcement is a very high priority right now, but like, I hope it's not a big priority for 50 years sort of thing. Mm-hmm. So I think there's some trends and insights that are durable over decades. Like I think the focus on parks and nature and wanting to like leave that behind for future generations is pretty loud and clear. But I do see a lot of them that's like they're gonna come and go. Like 15 years ago, affordability wasn't top of mind like it is now. So I'm just wondering like how you intend to tease out what are the things that are durable and then what are the things that are kind of like, we feel it right now in the present moment. I think that's one question. And then also, when I was reflecting on previous long-term planning and previous visions, like there are things that we didn't anticipate, like the gentrification issue. Like we were looking at corridors and centers and they're like, we should build a light rail and then like wide neighborhoods in that way. And I'm wondering what avenue do we have to capture impact of the unintended consequences of some of the stuff that we're talking about. Like, I don't know if in the 90s people were like gentrification's a thing, that's a thing that, but like, what are the types of things like gentrification that we should be thinking about? And that's kind of what gives me, some heartburn, is like, what are we not, like, what are the consequences of some of these decisions that we're not kind of thinking through? So, just, I don't know, kind of more philosophical, but I do think that, like, how do you distill something down to like a durable, decades-long approach is a valuable conversation
Yeah, for sure.
that I hope you all are having and that the commission's having and that we have to wrestle with.
Yeah, I mean, two quick responses to what are not quick questions. On the second one, no one has a crystal ball, especially at a 50-year time horizon. I think it was really interesting at the expert panel last week on social cohesion, human networks as resilience strategy, and hearing from 4 very different community perspectives on that, as that maybe being something that should be a bedrock and a foundation of a vision, because those human networks are really what can hold us together through things that we don't know are coming, right? We didn't anticipate gentrification. There will be things that we don't anticipate in this vision that will come at us. So a theme of resiliency and just being prepared for the unknown is, I think, something that we've been trying to seed the vision with. And then, getting people past today. That was one reason I thought that change in economic decline as a concern from today to the future was really interesting. Like, people know that there are cycles. 50 years is a long time. Things will change. But it's a good thing to flag, just like how we use the fact that people have a lens today when they're giving us information about what they think about the future.
Yeah, I think it'd be interesting if we had just more conversation. I don't know what the right venue is around that kind of like durability and I think risk assessment and thinking through unknowns. And I don't know, like sometimes I'm also back and forth on like, is resilience the right frame? Right? And like, I don't know.
Yeah, I think the other really interesting and important comment and line that came up in that discussion was the fact that maybe resilience is not the right frame, that it's actually that we need to fix the things that mean that we need to be resilient, right? In the first place, so that the system overall is actually supportive and not something that you're working against.
Right. Yeah, I mean, great thread of conversation. I mean, there's been so many different slides about what is it that people feel, what do they want, and I boiled it into it was one of the big bar charts, the top 3, where people wanted to be green, they wanted to be welcoming, and they wanted to be safe. It's these very deep feelings that we all define differently. Like, how do we define safety? That depends. We'd have 7 answers up here, I think, depending on how we would want that. But we all yearn for safety, and we all yearn to be welcomed, right? And then obviously the green is one of the most special things we have here. So anyway, just a lovely conversation, and agree. We should do that. Councilor Lewis and then Councilor Simpson.
Yeah, sure, thank you. I want to just really uplift the work that was done to incorporate the youth voices into the last meeting, and I do look forward to having a convention center full of youth. I think that's going to be great. When I think about the place we're at this pivotal moment where we've received several thousand public comment, but we are still so on the front end, we haven't even started to shape the thing that we're hoping to get the real feedback on. So those comments are helping, kind of scope or put us in the container for the future engagement. And I think that the trap that we were presented with at the end of our training was this idea of official future. And as government, I think we get very rigid about official futures. And the strength of public comment is they're not thinking about official futures, particularly from a government lens. So I would hope that we continue to use these comments and use that energy to deconstruct the trap of official future. We've had, since the last time we did this, we've had cities come online, we've had cities disincorporate, and I will really come back to this process is one that I hope sparks additional conversation, not to the degree that we would do a separate process like the 2040 vision, but we have two very large unincorporated areas in Washington and Clackamas County, respectively. What does it mean to have cities that are not cities that are larger than some cities? And that's something as a region we really need to tackle.
Thanks. Councilor Simpson.
Thank you so much, President Gonzalez. Thank you all for your dedication and attention to this very, very important future topic, all the puns intended. I too like the youth piece, but I want to go back and pull on something that I think that, like, Councilor Rosenthal brought up a little bit, and that's around innovation, right? Like in allowing space for innovation. I think that space for innovation led to and it's a fact, led to the ecosystem and things that we see now. But when I think about the workforce work that we're doing and say a comprehensive economic development strategy, in a 50-year time horizon, we'll have 10 of those because they happen every 5 years. And so, like, how do we incorporate that thinking into that 50-year vision that, like, we need to keep our fingers on the pulse in terms of workforce, how we develop our strategy for that 5 years and build on it for the next 5 years so that we have a resilient economy. I worry about that a lot because I know that we can't speculate in terms of like what industry or whatever is going to be here in 50 years in that moment, but to build towards it, I would hope we would have some intention. And so like understand, listen, I know we are moving into an age of AI and hopefully AI can move us into not working, but I don't see that in our future. And so I'm like, well, what is work and what does that look like for us? Because we have to provide that for our people here on the economy. So just a thought more so like how do we incorporate that thinking into that? Because again, comprehensive economic development strategy happens every 5 years and we will have 10 of those happen in the future vision cycle. So just want to uplift that.
Yeah, I think that it's a good comment and thread to feed to the research team on the project as they're looking at one of those research trailheads that they talked about was looking at the future of work and school. So they are off doing some work on how that's going to feed into the process.
Thank you.
Thanks. Councilor Nolan.
Thanks, Mr. Chair. Comment that Councilor Simpson just made kind of turned on a light bulb in my head. We are charged by our charter to do this every 15 years, right? So we will have an opportunity within 3 of those economic development cycles to adjust this. And I am wondering if we have incorporated into this process a mechanism that encourages and provides tools to see if our assumptions were realized. Assumptions that were made in 1995, we went through a review of what's happened actually since then in the region. Can we find a way within this process and product to create the tools, the venue, and the permission, if you will, to review more quickly what effect errors in our assumptions have on our path to getting to the 50-year vision? If you're looking 500 miles out, the difference of 1 or 2 degrees in your heading changes by 100 miles where you end up. If you're only looking 10 miles out, a 1 or 2 degree change in your heading, you can still find the runway. So how do we use this more proactively or adjust so that we actually can steer towards the vision that the region defines?
Yeah, I think that's a really helpful line of thinking for us to be bearing in mind.
Thanks.
Wonderful. All right, seeing no more conversation, staff, I'm glad that you're here. I took down some important notes about, cultural zeitgeist and engagement opportunities for every person that calls this place home. I want to make sure that me as the chair of the Future Vision Project, but also as a member of the council here, that you feel that, and talking to the council here, that you feel you have all the tools and resources you need as well I love the idea of town halls, and is that, things that individual Metro councilors partner on together. Is that something that we partner up with different organizations or thought leadership groups throughout the region? I think I'm open to all of those ideas. I'm confident that staff are too, and really want these events to create the momentum that this plan deserves and this plan frankly needs to see through the major aspirations of what we're collecting. So I see there's a lot of hard work happening, and we have a big summer with a lot of tabling and engagement as well that I'm sure folks will be touching here, but also want to invite us as the council. There's a lot of opportunity for us to do that, and I'm more than happy to work with anyone that wants to on that, co-hosting or sharing ideas and whatnot. So thank you so much.
Great, thanks. Thank you.
We are now going to our last item for our work session today, which is a Parks and Nature roadmap. We've discussed with our Parks team twice this year our plans to update the department's service delivery and update the current operating levy, which expires in 2028. Most recently, in April, the Metro Council affirmed the importance of the Parks and Nature levy in helping us deliver on promises to the voters, and asked staff to return in June with more detail on elements of a work plan to get to a successful levy referral for the May 2027 ballot. So yeah, you made it in June. Thank you. Today we will look at the work plan to move forward in exploring and developing options for a 2027 levy referral. And we have a really big team with us today. I'm going to first introduce John Blasher, our Parks and Nature Director, and Andy Shaw, our Government Affairs Director, and ask our staff to introduce themselves as we go through these presentations. So John and Andy, thanks.
Great. Thank you. Good afternoon, Council President Gonzalez and councilors. Thanks for having us today. My understanding is that we have about 3 hours with you presentation, maybe 30 minutes. Okay, we're going to do a little bit more of a truncated version then, but yes, here with our government affairs folks to talk about the Parks and Nature Levy, which is critical to the region's ability to restore habitat, protect water quality, and provide nature experiences to the region. So as you know, the current levy will need to be renewed by the voters every 5 years, and the current one will expire in June of 2028. So we're here today to talk about more of the key elements of the work plan and get your direction that helps us get to that referral for the May 27 ballot. Go to the next slide, please. So we wanted to begin by setting the mood a little bit more about what this work is all about. You heard from Jess and the Future Visions team about the importance of nature. We've been doing our work to share these stories with our comms team and with your office to get things out through our website, Big Backyard, and other pitches to local media. Recently, the Oregonian had a nice front page story on it as well. Ideally, we'd have this meeting at one of our beautiful picnic shelters or ankle deep in the river somewhere or canoeing along the Willamette Narrows. But since we can't bring you to nature today, we'll bring some nature to you. So, Georgia, can we please cross fingers that this instrument reel will play?
Yes.
Thanks.
Oh,
Allow.
Sorry, I'm pulling it up. Are we ready?
John, you just have to enact it.
It's a great.
Let's just act it out, yeah.
I like that. I like it a lot.
Go ahead and narrate, John.
Oh, here we go.
Okay, let me just refresh that.
It was a good reel.
There it is.
Get that, click that little, that mute button.
Oh, here we go. Click the
In
sound.
1860,
Okay, let's do it again. Sorry, Gen Z, not able to do the sound.
bought 120 acres here with plans to turn it into a nature preserve. An old mill and dam was built on this property in 1868. It eventually created Sevick Pond, which still shows up on Google Maps. But if you switch to satellite view, a big flood in 2009 took out the dam, and since then, this former pond has turned into a grassy meadow. We had to walk through head-high stinging nettles to reach the creek.
When they touch your bare skin, it'll tingle for a while.
It's really good respiratory medicine. And then the stinging quality is also pretty medicinal and brings blood flow to areas if you have arthritis or...
Oh, maybe I should touch it.
For 135 years, sediment had built up from there being a pond here. And so all that natural sediment that creeks carry just settled in here, very soft. And as soon as that one event in 2009 happened and the creek found a way around the dam, the creek's cut down into the sediment. And now what we have is a creek that doesn't have any riparian vegetation. It's very exposed to the sun. It's hot. It has no connection to its floodplain.
But if this was a healthy stream, during a storm, the water would come up, it would spill out into the floodplain and soak into the ground, where it would feed plants and soil, insects, and the groundwater.
One option is to remove the blackberries, plant native trees, and wait for the beavers to get to work.
The more industrial approach would be to bring in heavy equipment and push the banks back, make them sloped instead of little canyons.
This is a native one that's population is on decline. This is a western pearl shell. It indicates historical presence of fish.
History.
How old does trash have to be to become history and not just trash?
Well, 100 years from now, right where we're standing, we hope that there's towering oak trees and native wildflowers and shrubs, lots of birds singing, and some members of the public soaking it all in and being so happy that people today made the effort to protect these great places.
Thank you to the team for our partners today. Thanks, Georgia, for getting that played. We can go to the next slide when we get a chance. But as you see, this work of the department is really focused on some 100-year plans around habitat and nature, as well as day-to-day operations of inviting guests out. But currently we operate in an environment with an operating levy that's renewed every 5 years. So our goal today is to get some direction on the work plan that we've been developing, and also review some of the proposed analysis of data and engagement that we'll take over the next several months in this process. So we go to the next slide. You all know this. Nature's important. It's a big thing. We can actually go to the next slide so I can keep it moving. Where we've been so far, we're guided by the core values of this work, our commitment to protect clean water, restore habitat, create access to nature. We've heard from tribes, partners, the importance of making these investments. We've had repeated voter support through 3 bonds and 3 levies. We also are in a place of growing demand, population increase, the portfolio is growing, we've added new parks, new facilities. Also looking ahead, we see that costs are outpacing revenue, right? So as we're looking at how to manage all of that, the current levy rate's been the same since 2013, and the current funding would be, hopefully if you all pass this or bring it to the voters, would be through funding through 2033. Next slide, please. We've shared this with you all as well, just some of the operational realities that we have in terms of we've tightened the belt in the last 2 years with some really difficult reductions, layoffs, and scaling back. What we're seeing is some of our ability to be responsive to park operations, to our habitat restoration projects has been diminished. We still have non-negotiables around our commitments to ADA, equity and justice, navigating and advancing tribal priorities. But things just aren't keeping up. So as we continue to look at those cost reduction potentials or other revenue increases, just know that we're looking at this from all sides of what it takes to manage this amazing portfolio. And we're committed to continuing to look at those. And one of the big pieces is this operating levy. So With that, I think I got through all my slides as fast as possible, and I'm going to pass it now to Andy to talk a little bit more about the levy.
Great. So next slide, please. Thanks. Andy Shaw, Director of Government Affairs. As we've had a number of conversations with you about funding measures and the regional investment strategy, we've used that tree diagram to talk about the development of ballot measures. We'll come to that in a minute. In the roots area is need, readiness, and feasibility, and we want to just walk through these today. We're seeing after your retreats and other discussions, the Parks Levy is a great opportunity to practice some of that regional investment strategy analysis and work. So we're in that roots phase, but looking at moving to the trunk, developing the framework for a measure referral. We want to make sure we're meeting this moment, that we understand what voters are seeing and experiencing, and that we're equipping you to move forward investments in parks in the best way possible. So Parks and Nature teams shared a lot of information already on the need category. As John noted, as our system grows and we have both unpredictable dynamic system of nature, but also community needs, we're challenged by rising operational costs that aren't keeping pace with the current, what the current levy rate raises. In readiness, we're good news to report there. Lots of engagement. We're finding deep support for the levy and for renewal and continued funding of the levy from community partners. We have really incredible staff who, as you saw in that video, are really knowledgeable about the work we're doing and are great ambassadors for that work. In the viability area, though, we have to recognize challenges that we have. As you heard in the last presentation and here, nature remains a core value of voters, but we're experiencing some really challenging headwinds in the electorate, in the economy, et cetera. So showing how we're succeeding in the work that we're doing and showing accountability to voters in the process will be incredibly important. And today, we think this is a milestone moment where we're moving from that exploration roots phase and seeking your guidance to move into the framework, the trunk development. Next slide. So we came to you together in April to talk about the levy and the regional investment strategy. We've heard a number of themes from you in that and in previous work sessions. Recognition that we need to continue this vital funding source, take care of what we already have in our system, fulfill obligations, commitments that we've made in the past while providing quality service to the region. You've expressed an interest in these core value areas continuing on. I won't read them off, you have them up there. And really strong interest in building strong community partnerships and a broader coalition of folks engaged in this process. So we're trying to help you meet that moment that we find ourselves in and develop a levy measure that is viable and prioritizes the services that you're wanting us to prioritize. I think with that, I'll shift it on to the next slide.
And I think, yep, the next slide bears repeating or showing us that in this process, we're, in this milestone piece where we're at the end of the Roots Foundation building phase. And I'm so sorry, Michelle Ruffin, Regional Investment Strategy Manager. And I think just to illustrate here that we're hoping to move into the trunk and framework phase, and we want to share a little bit about what's going to make most of that around the work plan and what we're embarking on in the next 8 months. Next slide. So growing the trunk. This just gives us a little bit of a snapshot, and you'll see more, I'm sure, what's included in your packets around the questions that will be helpful for you all as counselors to grapple with and ask as we move through this process. But really snapshotting the rest of the year is here, right? We're here around creating the sideboards and the work plan. And then we move into the fall where we're defining priorities, we're refining scenarios, get some real guidance from you about what's important to look at in those scenarios. Are we looking at the right scenarios? And then in the winter, really getting down from that refining into completing a framework. And then of course, assuming that the council moves forward on a referral for a levy, then we move in that direction. So next slide. I think the next slide is just going to give us a quick snapshot of council direction points. that were here June 23rd on the work plan. There's analysis and engagement plans that we're bringing to you both in your packet and in discussion today. October 6th is going to be where we prioritize, really looking more in depth around those investment scenarios and getting direction from you around prioritizing what that looks like. And then in December, really refining. And then in January, finalizing that framework and what we hope is, that those decisions around a referral. And I'll pass it.
Next. Okay. We can go to the next slide. Well, hi, Council. Beth Cohen, she, her, Parks and Nature. So we're going to move into just a couple slides about the more nitty-gritty elements of the work plan. I'll cover 2 slides and then hand it off to Marissa. So the first kind of question for your consideration, and you'll see these match with the questions that we're going to ask you at the end, is about funding scenarios. So it's really important to explore with you, with the public, as we have these conversations, what we can deliver and what priorities we should make at different funding levels. And for you as decision makers to have a clear understanding of the costs and trade-offs of these different funding scenarios that you can see on the screen. Your decision this fall on a funding level and priorities is going to help shape the rest of that levy framework. So for today, we are proposing for continued exploration of the 3 scenarios you can see on this slide. I won't read them because hopefully you can see them and they're in your packet. The question for you today is, are these the right scenarios for staff to explore? We're not going to dive into them today, but we want to know we're on the right track when we come back in the fall with more information about these, what can be funded, and what the priorities are. And to be clear, we'll probably bring an analysis of these options with a staff recommendation for your consideration of viability for a funding level and for priorities within that funding level. So we can go to the next slide. And this is referencing, so a couple things, we put a lot of detail, more detail in the handout. There's some kind of summary detail about the information we're compiling to support council decision-making on this slide. We want to make sure today that the work that's currently underway in terms of information gathering meets your need and expectations for decision-making. So this slide provides a high-level summary of the kinds of questions we're seeking to answer as we bring information to you as early as this summer. And like I said, I think I saw you looking at the handout, so there's more detail in the handout. That's really a guide. And hopefully you see what is you've already shared with us in terms of feedback about the information you want to see. More detail about our portfolio, trends in service delivery, how we're being innovative, and really what we want to make sure we get from you today is, yes, this is the right set of information, or no, these are the things we want to see that we don't see reflected in the handout. And really briefly, that looks like functionally this summer through the fall, we're going to be building a lot of context for you for our service delivery, what we deliver, how we deliver. It's going to be more of a menu of options. We won't kill you with information, but you can opt in through briefings, through additional packets to get as much or as little as you want. And that's this summer. And then we'll be working towards that October milestone where we'll really ground into service delivery costs, revenue projections, and the priorities that we're hearing from tribal partners and stakeholders to inform that scenario conversation. And then by the end of the year, we'll be bringing those draft elements of the levy framework for your review. So I'm going to hand it to Marissa to talk about communications and engagement.
Marissa Grass, she, her pronouns, and I'm a strategic engagement advisor in government affairs and policy development. Sorry, that's really long. I think Andy was talking about, we recognize that we need to meet the moment, and a big part of that is how we're approaching our engagement and outreach. A strong coalition really built on trust and with our partners are going to be key to designing this measure and to voter support. We've already kicked off what we're internally calling a summer of nature. We've got this slide that describes some of our priorities. So work has already underway to hear from tribal governments, conservation partners. The bottom photo there is from a Parks and Nature lab that we held in partnership with the Intertwine. Councillor Lewis and Councillor Wong were there for that. Also meeting with community advocates and business leaders. We've been meeting with folks who may have a less direct connection to a history and engaging in parks and nature work, but are nonetheless still important in this work. And then the urban indigenous community. Some of the key tactics and tools, it's really about getting outside. What better way to appreciate what this funding does than by seeing it in person? So we also have Councilor Rosenthal there on a tour with Tualatin River Keepers and Ash Creek Forestry Management. That was in Tigard at Dirksen Nature Park. And we're really trying to focus our conversations, have direct outreach, be integrated with our communication strategy. Next slide. The good news, I think you saw in that video at the beginning, is that nature really tells the story really well. It's just about how we're amplifying those stories in the region. So we're working to align a better range of communication tools, both for our partners and also for the broad public. I think I'll just point out a couple things here. So that story in the Oregonian, which was also the video, just all the work that happens behind the scenes to make a story like that happen. Our Big Backyard, which has already shifted to be digital as well. And then the handouts that we're designing. There's an example up there from Councilor Rosenthal's district. Councilor Rosenthal, was actually the last time we were here, you suggested talking about what this work really means for the region. And so in this case, looking at this handout, it's about the way that the work has impacted the Tualatin River in Washington County. And you were able to share that on your recent roadshow, visiting different city councils in your district as well. So I think the other kind of connection here is with the future vision, and really hearing again how important nature is to our community. So we're trying to also kind of bring together that outreach in the summer, working with Future Vision and partnering with them on events like the Parks Lab, but also on those summer tabling events and other opportunities. I did want to note that the communications team was affected in Parks and Nature by last year's budget cuts. And so the team, GAPD, and the communications department are all working together on this work. And really, the bottom line is an opportunity to connect the region to the great work that's happening for Parks and Nature. And we're hoping for your feedback. There's a handout in your packet that lists the specific communications tools, and we're hoping to hear if we're headed in the right direction. Communications and outreach.
So with that next slide, I think we're ready to hear any input you have. Are we looking at the right scenarios generally? Are we providing you with the right kind of information to date that helps you give us guidance in moving this along? And do the engagement and communication strategies we've outlined look like the right ones? Other ideas that you have?
All right, thank you. Councilor Nolan with your hand up.
Thanks, Mr. Chair. I was interested in your scenarios where you say same rate, I presume a bump up, and then we'll continue at the same rate for some unspecified time, way beyond when any of us are here, because that's 15 years from now. I'm interested in us thinking about the economic burden, the financial burden of this with more intricacy than a simple, what's the millage rate per $1,000 of assessed value? Given the disruption that's happened over 40 years with our property tax system, you have people in different parts of the region and at different incomes where the relationship between the market value of their home and the assessed value can be wildly different. Mm-hmm. So I'm looking for some mechanism that we can explore and the council can consider that more appropriately measures affordability, such as showing us the ratio of cost per average or median property against median or average income at that maybe quartile, quintile. Does someone whose income or home value is in the lowest quintile bear an equal or greater burden based on the way we're structuring it? If we're open to changing from the current way we collect this tax, which is a given rate per $1,000 of assessed value, I'd like us to be able to look at what the impact on income class equity is. I would be much more interested in a structure that has a lower percentage burden on that lowest quintile of property owners and a greater impact or greater percentage of income or wealth on the higher ones.
I'll take that.
And I don't expect you to answer it right now, Andy, but
No,
I would like to be able to look at it as we deliberate.
My answer was going to be, we'd be happy to explore that. I don't believe under the Constitution we're allowed to do a progressive approach to property tax collection, but we can explore that question. We can also bring back information about how the tax would affect people at varying assessed value levels. What I don't know is how easy it would be to connect that to income levels by household value. But there may be some proxies for that.
Oh, there's databases all over the place.
I was looking for Brian or someone else in the audience just to see if.
Our economic research folks can probably figure out how.
So
to.
for me, two big questions. Is there any wiggle room, which having looked at Metro 550 many times, I'm not sure there's a different formula to approach, but we could look at that. And then looking at impacts across different values of housing and trying to connect that with income levels.
I think you're right. I don't think we can have a stepped rate structure, but I think we could have a homestead exemption.
Interesting. Which exists at the state level.
It makes a much bigger difference for folks in that quintile.
Right.
If the first 100,000, 150,000 of assessed value is not subject to, then that could make it more balanced and equitable. I would like for us to look at that.
Thanks. Can we put the slide back on the screen that shows the questions, please? And also invite folks if there are any comments or questions regarding the presentation as well, in terms of the information and the work plan.
I was just going to add one nuance. I think we're at a point where we're showing with our current capacity what we can deliver on the technical information analysis side. It will help to know if the informational gaps that you're identifying are shared by most or all of the council, so we can really prioritize like building in those pieces. So I would just add you to kind of chime in if you can on those additional gaps. If you're adding those, would be great.
Well, not seeing more hands up, and I know we're at one here. I think that the information that you've prepared, it feels adequate to me. I think we're looking at the different scenarios appropriately. It's very thorough, so thank you for your work. I know a lot of effort has gone into that. And when I see these three scenarios, I mean, like you put in your in the notes here, renew is like the status quo. What we have is going to be the deepest cuts because we're just not, the money's not keeping up with our needs, and we have a modest increase of 3 cents, which would be a big deal to people. I think, as we probably know, it's currently collect around 9.6 cents, a 25% increase, right? And even then, we would probably not be able to keep up with all of our costs, it looks like. And then a Renew Plus, which to me does not show a different pay structure, or are we looking at a different tax measure in addition to that?
I think we are interested in exploring both with partners and through further public opinion polling the concept of a renewal plus potentially a separate measure that's looking at specific investments or some combination thereof of a higher rate but just the concept that we're trying to lean in on key things that voters have indicated they're interested in, seeing investments in, key things that partners want to invest in. And is there a tactic where we can either at the same time propose a renewal plus an additional ask, or is there a renewal plus a future ask that's very focused? That's the concept.
Thank you. Yeah, that's a little bit more clear now. Councilor Lewis and then Councilor Holm.
Sure, thank you. I think you've appropriately identified the three buckets of presentation and research. I do think that the most appetite will probably be in the Renew Plus category, and I would hope you bring us multiple options within that bucket. In particular, like Councilor Nolan said, if we were to do anything to reform or remove the tax, so it wasn't just a flat renewal, I would want that to be on the plus side and not on the base, because I would want to secure a renewal where you can renew. I also think that the idea that we have in partnering with our locals and cities in particular on the bond side is something worth exploring on the levy side. And then finally, we're out of sync again with the legislature for getting a special district. But this is something that we talked about 5 years ago. I hate that we're here again. It's already too late for this one. So please bring us back something that has stepping stones towards what that future would look like.
Thank you. Councilor Huang.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, same comments around, working with the legislature. And I think, these are the right buckets. I'd be interested in maybe having some more discussion on the kind of corresponding work plan for outreach and coalition building. I think anything that's kind of different requires like organizations and advocates and governments to like be more in lockstep. So I think polling is really important, but I think before, like during or before that, like just having some more relationship building conversation pieces, like the event that we went to in Oregon City, Milwaukee. Sorry,
Close enough.
Close enough. I think more spaces like that are critical because I think that's when you start to capture like public imagination. So I'm not sure how to facilitate that more, but I think we just need to like get out there, and I really appreciate the video. Like, President Gonzalez has often said, we want to be content deliverers, and I think that really spoke to that. So I think you're on the right path, but we need to double down and do more of the things that are working and creating buzz. But really excited for the research process that you'll be undertaking.
Excellent. Councilor Lewis, is that your hand up again?
It is up again.
Okay, great.
Sorry.
Just want to make sure we get you.
I didn't answer the communication and engagement question in my previous comments. And it strikes me that we are definitely talking to many of the right people. The additional work that I think needs doing is talking to the unorganized recreationalists. I think there's a lot of political momentum around certain groups of recreationalists, but we have a ton of folks who use our spaces regularly, and I think it's worth a deep level of engagement talking to them.
Fantastic. All right, thank you. Look forward to this important work. As you just saw with our future vision presentation, I think unequivocally the thing that Oregonians love the most about this place is the nature. We play such a critical role in that. That video that Samantha Swindler, I think, made regarding the visit is just, I would love to see 30 more of those because we have so many stories to tell. So John, to you and your team, y'all are doing amazing work that makes me so proud to be an Oregonian, and maybe we be able to do more of it and continue to sustain it. So we'll let you go. All right, council. All right, 1:06. So I'm going to move our COO communication and our council communication to our next meeting. and we'll adjourn our meeting. Our next scheduled meeting is for June 25th at 10 a.m. Thank you.